Chapter 1266. The beautiful woman's body began to tremble violently. She could already see the looks of ridicule in the eyes of the crowd. "Damned girl, if you continue to spout nonsense, I'll tear your mouth apart." The little loli scoffed. "Just now, you used Brother Ziheo's life to threaten me and force me to admit to this matter. If I didn't agree, you would make a move on Brother Ziheo. These past few months, it was Brother Ziheo who risked his life to protect me. That's why I was able to survive. For Brother Ziheo's sake, I had no choice but to let you control me." The crowd had already begun to point fingers at the beautiful woman. The looks of ridicule and disdain were like a thorn that pierced fiercely into her heart. The little loli gripped in Ziheo's hand tightly and continued, "You said that I was a freeloader in the G family. The G family had raised me for 6 years, so I should contribute to the G family. G Fei." The beautiful woman wanted to stop the little loli. However, the little loli could not even bear to look at her and continued to narrate her crimes. "The G family was established by my parents. I'm their adopted daughter and their only daughter. Yet you think that I'm just an outsider. You're the people closest to my parents. You even said that you deserve everything in the G family. I'm just a freeloader who stayed in the G family." The crowd on the street could no longer bear to watch. Voices of criticism swarmed towards the beautiful woman like a tidal wave. "This madam of the G family actually dares to say such things. TSK, you really don't know a person's face. I thought that she had treated Ji Fei very well. Even though Ji Fei is only an adopted daughter, she was adopted by the previous head of the Ji family. According to the genealogy, she is the rightful heir to the Ji family. If Ji Fei had not been so young, the previous head of the Ji family would not have handed the family over to his own younger brother. Unfortunately, the previous head of the Ji family did not have a good eye for people. Ji Fei was wronged by the Ji family and was almost sold off. She was even labeled as a freeloader and even shamelessly claimed that the Ji family had raised Ji Fei for 6 years. TSK, were they the ones who raised her for 6 years? That's the daughter that the former patriarch raised himself. For many years, this shameless couple lived and ate for free in the Ji family, enjoying the grace that the Ji family brought them. But their parents died less than a year ago, and they want to sell their daughter. I've seen shameless people, but only this pair are shameless to this extent. Today, I've really broadened my horizons." After saying what she wanted to say in her heart, Ji Fei felt her entire body relax. The unwillingness and anger that she had suppressed for many days was finally revealed in front of others. The beautiful woman's body went limp and she collapsed to the ground. Her forehead was covered with a layer of cold sweat and her face was pale. Dan Min. The middle-aged man turned to Dan Min angrily. "Is what she said true?" Dan Min's face grew paler and paler. Suddenly, she smiled, and it was a sinister smile. "Am I wrong? She had been freeloading in the Ji family. She doesn't have the bloodline of the Ji family in her body. She's not even a member of the Ji family." The beautiful woman's hair was disheveled and she looked like a lunatic. Her eyes emitted a dark green light. "This Ji family is ours. We definitely can't give it to that little hussy, Ji Fei." "Shut up." At this moment, Yun Xiao had already retracted his tail teeth. So, the middle-aged man quickly ran in front of Dan Min and fiercely slapped her across the face. "Who allowed you to say such words? Fei Fei is my younger brother's only daughter. You actually dare to say that she's freeloading." Chapter 1267. Dan Min lowered her head. Her hair was a mess on her temples as her lips slowly curled into a sarcastic smile. "You are the only heir to the Ji family. As the elder brother, the Ji family will be yours after your younger brother dies. Who does Ji Fei think she is? She's just an adopted daughter, not a real member of the Ji family. You." The middle-aged man trembled in anger. Of course, his thoughts were the same as Dan Min's. He believed that he should be the head of the G family. However, he was not stupid enough to show it in front of others. He angrily scolded, "Hurry up and apologize to Fei Fei." Dan Min scoffed and turned around. Her eyes were filled with disdain. Fei Fei. When the middle-aged man saw that it was Dan Min, he quickly walked over to her and gently placed his hand on her shoulder. "It's all eldest uncle's fault for making you suffer. Don't worry, eldest uncle will avenge you and divorce this woman. Eldest uncle has always doted on you. How could I allow you to suffer?" The little Lolita gently raised the corners of her lips and blinked her large eyes. "If I wanted to take back everything that belonged to my parents, would you give it to me?" The middle-aged man looked a little embarrassed. He said earnestly, "Fei Fei, you're too young. It's not easy to be the head of the family. Over the past year, haven't I worked hard enough? How could I bear to see you work so hard? You should still be the eldest miss of the G family. I can give you a position that is second only to one and above all." The little Lolita tilted her head innocently. "But I'm not afraid of being tired. Can eldest uncle return my power? This was left behind by my father. Besides, brother Ziheo has been helping me." The middle-aged man's expression darkened. He glanced at Ziheo and said in a low voice, "Fei Fei, in this world, how can outsiders be more reliable than family? And Ziheo may have been with you for so many years, but he is still an outsider. If you ask him to help you, isn't that the same as giving him power?" The little Lolita smiled. "Eldest uncle, during the days that I've been away, it was this outsider you speak of who used his life to protect me. Even when he went to work as a laborer, he never let me suffer from hunger. In comparison, you so-called relatives have always schemed against me, and even slapped my father's family and refused to give me anything." The middle-aged man's expression gradually became cold. "Fei Fei, stop fooling around. Let's go home first, okay? When we get back, I'll have a good chat with you." "No." The little Loli pushed away the middle-aged man's hand, raised her head, and said word by word, "I only want G's family." Yun Luofeng was right. A kind person would be bullied, and a kind horse would be ridden. If she wanted to never be bullied again, she had to become stronger. "Fei Fei." The middle-aged man's expression was somewhat ugly. "This G family was handed over to me by your father. I have to be responsible for the G family. If I put the G family in your hands, what if you completely destroy the G family? How am I going to see your father?" The little Loli's eyes were stubborn. "No matter what you say, this G family is mine." Yun Luofeng's eyes narrowed slightly as he watched the two of them clash. "Yun Xiao, if anyone dares to stop Ji Fei from managing the Ji family, kill them without mercy." When he heard the words "kill without mercy," the middle-aged man's body trembled violently. He gritted his teeth and looked at Yun Luofeng. "Aren't you meddling too much? Are you going to meddle in other people's family affairs?" Chapter 1268. Yun Xiao. Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows and called out. Yun Xiao stepped forward. His cold and murderous aura rose once again and surged towards the middle-aged man. "Ji Fei, how do you want to punish them?" Yun Luofeng turned to look at Ji Fei and asked. Ji Fei bit her lip. "Big Aunt treated me like that, I won't let her live. As for Big Uncle, even though he's a bit greedy, he's never hurt me. I want to chase him out of the Ji family. Ji Fei, you've shown mercy." Yun Luofeng looked at Ji Fei. "He's greedy for power. Will he be satisfied after you take away the Ji family?" Ji Fei lowered her head. She knew that Yun Luofeng was right. If Big Uncle was not satisfied with his power being taken away, he would definitely come back for her. "Yun Xiao, cripple him," Yun Luofeng said slowly. I don't want to cause any more trouble. Okay. As soon as the man finished speaking, the middle-aged man didn't even have time to beg for mercy before he felt a force hit his dantian. Pfft. He spat out a mouthful of blood, took 2 steps back and collapsed. Ji Fei's father gave you your power. I'm taking it back on his behalf. Yun Luofeng glanced at the middle-aged man and slowly walked towards Ji Fei. If you don't want to kill him, for your own safety, you must cripple his power. Little Loli nodded, I understand. She had not planned to kill Big Uncle because of her father. She had forgotten that a narrow-minded person like Big Uncle would definitely seek revenge on her. Ji Fei, Yun Luofeng lowered his eyes and continued, in this world, don't trust anyone besides Nziheo. Even if that person is your family. Little Loli pursed her lips and stared at the young girl in front of her with misty eyes. Will you stay? No, I have to return to the academy. Yun Luofeng shook his head. Wait. Just as she finished speaking, Xiao Mo's small body walked over from behind. He looked at little Loli with a smile. We saved you just now, shouldn't you repay us? Ji Fei blinked her eyes. My ability is relatively weak, and there are very few things I can do. However, as long as I can do it, I will definitely help you. Little Amo smiled mysteriously, you will definitely be able to do what I want you to do. In fact, in this world, only you can do it, Ji family whole. The little Loli asked everyone to leave before looking at the boy standing in front of her with a puzzled expression. Just cry. Little Amo took out a porcelain bottle from his lapel and handed it to the little girl. Little Loli was confused. She didn't understand what little Amo was trying to do. Little Amo frowned and said impatiently, I want your tears. It's not a loss for you to give me a few. Even though little Loli didn't know what little Amo wanted her to do, she still did as she was told. She blinked and a teardrop fell from the corner of her eye into the porcelain bottle. As if recalling the grievances she had suffered over the past year, the little Loli cried louder and louder, her tears flowing down like a torrential rain. After a while, the entire porcelain bottle was filled with her tears. That's enough. Little Amo put the porcelain bottle away and his delicate face lit up with a smile. Master, we have the ingredient. Next, we need a few other medicinal ingredients. These ingredients aren't very valuable and the medicine shop will definitely have them. If that's the case, let's go. Chapter 1269. Yun Luofeng then turned and walked out of the Great Hall. Miss, you stay here, I'll send them off. Nziheo returned to his senses and quickly chased after her. Perhaps sensing his pursuit, Yun Luofeng stopped in her tracks, turned her back to Nziheo and said, I know you must be curious about Ji Fei's true identity but I won't tell you. Knowing this won't do you any good. You only need to protect her for the rest of your life and that's enough. Nziheo was not stupid. Ji Fei's tears could be used as medicine, how could she be an ordinary child? I understand. Nziheo did not pursue the matter any further and nodded solemnly, for the rest of my life, I, Nziheo, will use my life to protect Mrs. Safety. Even if I die in battle for her, I will use my soul to continue to protect her. Even if I have to ascend to the heavens or descend to the underworld, nothing can stop my determination. Yun Luofeng's lips curled into a smile and she did not say anything else. Her gaze turned towards the sky in front of her. Yun Xiao, Xiao Mo, let's go. Yun Xiao silently followed behind Yun Luofeng. Her cold black eyes stared at the young girl's figure and the coldness on her handsome face gradually disappeared. At this moment, Yun Luofeng, who was rushing back, was completely unaware of the storm that awaited her upon her return to the academy. In the west courtyard, Yao Shu, who was listening to his subordinate's report, was suddenly pulled back by an angry shout. He frowned and a fierce light flashed across his eyes. Then, he saw a furious Ling Hai rush in from outside the door. The guards could not stop him no matter how hard they tried. Yao Shu, get out here. Ling Hai rushed in front of Yao Shu and without saying a word, he started to attack him. With a loud bang, Yao Shu dodged to the side and a large hole was punched in the wall behind him by Ling Hai's fist. Ling Hai's fingers cracked as he clenched them. Yao Shu, you expelled Yun Luofeng from the academy. You even sent people to kill her. Yao Shu laughed coldly and his face was filled with ridicule. Yun Luofeng is extremely cruel. First, she abused her own son. Then, because my disciple stopped her, she crippled my disciple's limbs. I will definitely settle this debt with her. Ling Hai laughed out loud. Yun Luofeng has a son. Are you kidding me? How could she have a son? Wasn't it because our East Courtyard changed the hall master of the duty hall, so you held a grudge and made up a reason to attack Yun Luofeng? Ling Hai, if you don't believe me, you can go ask around. Who in the entire academy doesn't know that Yun Luofeng has a son? What I don't understand is, why are you so angry because of Yun Luofeng's matter? Only a few people knew about what had happened in the duty hall that day. Thus, Yao Shu did not know about the relationship between Yun Luofeng and the East Courtyard. Humph. Ling Hai coldly snorted, Yun Luofeng is my disciple, do you think I shouldn't care about her? Let me tell you, if you want to expel Yun Luofeng from the academy, there's no way. Our East Courtyard will never agree to this. Yun Luofeng is your disciple? Yao Shu narrowed his eyes, a dangerous glint flashing across his eyes. So, Yun Luofeng's actions that day were approved by the East Courtyard. Bullshit. Ling Hai directly scolded, who wants to attack your disciple? It was obviously you who framed her. This matter, wait for the dean to return. I will definitely seek justice for Yun Luofeng. Chapter 1270. Director. The director has been gone for so many years, do you think he will come back? Yao Shu slowly stood up, the murderous intent in his eyes intensified. Furthermore, Yun Luofeng did it, my disciple said it herself, she never lies. Ling Hai fiercely flung his sleeves, even if it was really my disciple who did it, it must be your disciple who did something infuriating. Don't try to push the blame away. As long as I am here, no one can chase my disciple away. After saying this, Ling Hai once again glared at Yao Shu fiercely, turned around and left angrily. Staring at his departing figure, Yao Shu's eyes turned even colder. East Courtyard. Looks like Meng Qi's injury has something to do with the East Courtyard. Do you really think you can protect Yun Luofeng? What a joke, the person I want to kill will never live to see tomorrow. Wuhui Mainland. Ji family. On the luxurious carved bed, the red bed curtains fluttered in the wind, faintly revealing the alluring scene on the bed. Ji Jiutian half reclined on the bed, his red robe half unbuttoned, revealing his fair, jade-like chest. His features were exquisite, with a red dot between his brows, slightly raised, wild and domineering. Two beautiful maids squatted on the bed, massaging his legs. The entire room was filled with an unusual anger. Master. At this moment, a maid's voice came from outside the door. Someone from the 7 continents is here. 7 continents. The man raised his eyebrows. Who? West Continent Institute, Elder Fifin. Originally, the maid thought she would be punished for disturbing the man, who knew that only the man's charming laughter could be heard from inside the room. 7 continents. Yun Luofeng has been in the 7 continents for some time, let him in. Yes, master. Just as she finished speaking, the maid's footsteps gradually faded away. Not long after, the room door was pushed open by an old hand. Lin Fifin hurried in from outside, his eyes immediately saw the bewitching man on the bed, his eyes instantly filled with grievance. Director, when are you going back to the school? The school cannot be left unattended, you should return with us. The man's smiling eyes were like a sharp sword that shot towards Lin Fifin. He picked up a grape by the side with his fingernails and gently squeezed it until it burst. A cold light flashed across his slightly narrowed eyes. If the Western Continent Academy needs me to go back and take charge, then what are you elders for? Lin Fifin's voice paused. The Western Continent Academy has been divided into two big sects, the East Courtyard and the West Courtyard. But before the internal troubles were settled, external troubles came. Back then, when you were still around, even the Continent Lord had to be courteous to our Western Continent Academy. Once you disappeared, the Continent Lord no longer placed our academy in his eyes. The man casually picked up another grape. This time, he did not crush it. Instead, he elegantly placed it in his mouth. All these years, I have only managed your Western Continent Academy on behalf of my good friend. This does not mean that the Western Continent Academy can restrict me. Ding! Lin Fifin still wanted to say something, but the man's expression gradually became impatient. I have helped him for so many years, that's enough. Go back, there's no need to come to the G family to find me. Lin Fifin sighed helplessly. He took one last look at the bewitching man, then walked out with a bitter smile. Western Continent. Ji Jotian gently placed a finger on his lips, his smile extremely bewitching. I should indeed make a trip to the Western Continent, but not to the Western Continent Academy. Chapter 1271. The maid gathered her courage and asked, Master is planning to find Miss Yun. That's right. Ji Jotian laughed maniacally. I haven't seen that girl in a long time, I really miss her. After a while, I'll go find her. Thinking of Yun Luofeng, Ji Jotian's smile deepened and the corners of his lips involuntarily rose, but... Ji Jotian frowned. The Ji family's spatial tunnel leads to the West Continent Academy. I really don't want to see those old things. But this is the only way I can reach the 7 continents faster. West Continent Academy. At the entrance, Yun Zhao's arm was wrapped around Yun Luofeng's waist. Just as she was about to enter, she was stopped by 2 people. Yun Luofeng, you're no longer a disciple of the West Continent Academy. You have no right to take another step into the West Continent Academy. A guard blocked in front of Yun Luofeng and said expressionlessly. The other guards saw Yun Luofeng appear and immediately turned to run back to the academy. He was going to inform Yao Shu. Yun Luofeng looked at the guard who stopped her and gently patted Yun Zhao's hand, indicating for him not to make a move. Who gave the order to chase me out of the West Continent Academy? She raised her brows and looked coldly at the guard in front of her. The guard replied coldly, It's Elder Yao Shu's order. You injured Elder Yao Shu's disciple and still dare to return to the academy, you really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Yao Shu's disciple? Yun Luofeng did not understand and did not know what had happened. Yun Luofeng. Suddenly, an anxious voice sounded from the front. Yun Luofeng looked up and saw Hu Li quickly rushing out of the courtyard. Yun Luofeng, hurry and leave this place. Hu Li's expression was very anxious and she kept looking back as if she was afraid that someone would chase after them. Yun Luofeng became even more confused. Hu Li, what exactly happened? She had only left for half a month. What exactly had happened in the academy? Yun Luofeng, Elder Yao Shu's disciple, Yao Mingqi, had her tendons cut by someone a while ago. Now she has come out and said that it was you who did it. Hurry and leave this place, it'll be too late if you don't leave now. Yun Luofeng was silent. She thought for a moment, but she still couldn't figure out who this Yao Mingqi was. Yao Mingqi. Could it be her? Little Mo exclaimed in surprise. Yun Luofeng turned to look at Little Mo, you know him. Little Mo rubbed his nose and said, the woman who broke into our house had her tendons cut off by Yun Xiao. Furthermore, not only did she eat the food that Yun Xiao made for you, she even tried to seduce Yun Xiao. So, she reaped what she sowed. I just don't know why she said that you did all of this. Yun Luofeng subconsciously glanced at Yun Xiao, the corners of his lips curling into a smile. Isn't there a saying that love begets hate? I reckon that when Yun Xiao came to find me, she recognized Yun Xiao and transferred her hatred onto me. Perhaps she even thinks that if I die, Yun Xiao might be hers. The scenery here is not bad. However, Yun Xiao had said this out of the blue. Yun Luofeng was silent. Yun Xiao lowered his eyes and stared at her. If you like it, I can snatch this place for you. What he meant was that he could snatch this West Continent Academy for Yun Luofeng at any time. Why would he be afraid of Yao Shu and his group? Chapter 1272. From the moment he had cut off Yao Mingqi's tendons, he had never placed the West Continent Academy in his eyes. Hu Li's mouth twitched a few times and he said helplessly, "You guys better leave quickly. If you don't leave now, it'll be too late." Just as he finished speaking, a powerful force suddenly attacked from behind, carrying with it a monstrous rage as it launched an attack towards Yun Luofeng. Yun Zhao's body flashed and he appeared in front of Yun Luofeng. He raised his palm gently and without any unnecessary movements, he clenched his fist. At the same time, energy surged out from his body and with a bang, he pushed the incoming person back. Yao Shu's expression was extremely serious as he stared coldly at Yun Xiao. "Who are you?" "The person I'm looking for is Yun Luofeng." "Unrelated people, get out of my way." Yun Zhao's face was expressionless as he stared coldly at Yao Shu. His black robe fluttered without any wind and his aura was austere. Yun Luofeng. Yao Shu's gaze moved away from Yun Xiao and landed on Yun Luofeng's face. He gritted his teeth. "It's you, you hurt my disciple. Today, since you've returned to the West Continent Academy, I'll cripple your powers and make you kneel in front of my disciple for 3 months. I'll let you have a taste of the pain she endured." Yao Shu's eyes filled with rage as he thought of his daughter who was lying on the bed. He wanted nothing more than to tear Yun Luofeng into 1,000 pieces. "Your disciple." A hoarse voice came from the side. The man's expression was as cold and emotionless as usual. "I heard her." Boom. Yao Shu's anger surged again as he stared coldly at Yun Xiao. "That's impossible. My disciple said that the person who hurt her was Yun Luofeng. That must be Yun Luofeng. Yun Luofeng couldn't defeat my disciple, so he used this kid as bait to deceive my disciple. My disciple is kind and didn't guard against a child at all. That's why she fell into their trap." His sharp gaze swept across Xiao Mo's body as the murderous intent in his eyes intensified. Xiao Mo laughed mockingly. "Your disciple clearly tried to seduce my father and was injured by him. Yet, she blamed my mother for it. TSK, in your heart, is this kind of woman a kind person?" "Humph." Yao Shu snorted coldly. "Don't even think of framing my disciple. My disciple has a whole bunch of suitors. It's impossible for her to seduce this man. Hu Li is also one of her pursuers. If she chooses Hu Li, why would she look for a man who already has a wife?" Puff. Hu Li almost spat out his saliva. What did this have to do with him? Moreover, when did he become Yao Mingqi's pursuer? Why didn't he know? "I see." Yun Luofeng narrowed his eyes and looked at Hu Li with a faint smile. "So you are Yao Mingqi's pursuer?" Cough cough. Hu Li coughed twice and shrugged. "It has nothing to do with me. I've never liked a woman like Yao Mingqi. Even if she came knocking on my door, I wouldn't accept her." Hu Li. Seeing that someone dared to humiliate his daughter, Yao Shu flew into a rage. "What did you say? Do you dare to repeat what you just said? Am I not clear enough? Even if Yao Mingqi came to me, I wouldn't like her." Hu Li might as well give up. At most, he would leave West Continent College with Yun Luofeng. He felt that following beside Yun Luofeng was better than staying in this kind of place. Moreover, West Continent College's East Dean elders were all Yun Luofeng's masters. If they could rush over, Yun Luofeng might not be in danger. Good, it seems like you don't want to mingle in West Continent College anymore. Since that's the case, from today onwards, you are no longer a disciple of our college. Yao Shu's eyes flashed coldly as he gritted his teeth. Chapter 1273. Elder Yao Shu, I'm afraid this isn't too good. When the other elders of the West Academy saw Yao Shu's action, they quickly advised, Hu Li is a disciple on the heaven list. If you expel him, our academy will lose 2 geniuses at once. So what? I said I would expel him, so he must be expelled. I won't let off anyone who insults my disciple. In this life, he owed Yao Mingqi too much. And because of his negligence, his daughter had suffered such harm. So how could he allow these people who had harmed her to get away scot-free? Didn't you say you wanted to speak up for Yun Luofeng? Then there's no need for you to stay. In any case, my Western Continent Academy doesn't lack you. Ha! A cold laugh pierced through the sky, landing in everyone's ears. I really don't know when it was your turn to make decisions in the Western Continent Academy. Su Kong and the others walked over from behind, their expressions filled with fury. Only when they saw that Yun Luofeng was safe and sound did they sigh in relief. Shuang bitterly smiled. She had originally thought that after taking in a female disciple, she would have much more leisure time. Who would have thought that Yun Luofeng would cause more trouble than anyone else? In the time she had taken her in, she had caused quite a bit of commotion in the academy. But so what? Who told her to be their disciple? Could it be that she had to just watch as these bastards bullied her? You really want to stop me from getting revenge for my disciple? Yao Shu's eyes sank. This Yun Luofeng has committed a monstrous crime. First, he abused his own son, and then he harmed Meng Qi, who wanted to protect the weak. He even framed Meng Qi for stealing. How can I endure this? In any case, no matter who comes today, Yun Luofeng must die. Yao Shu's aura once more exploded out, surging into the sky. Under this heavy aura, some of the guards couldn't even breathe. Shuang quickly walked over to Yun Luofeng, a warm smile on her face. Fenger, don't be afraid. Our masters will protect you. Tell us what exactly happened, and we'll definitely get justice for you. Yun Luofeng did not speak, but little Mo could not help but speak up. It was Yao Mingqi who wanted to seduce my father. She was also injured by my father, and my parents did not beat me up. It was she who took a fancy to my father and took the opportunity to strike up a conversation. Who knew that my father would ignore her, so she took the opportunity to sneak into my house. With just a few words, he had explained everything clearly. Surprise flashed across Shui Ying's eyes. What surprised her was that Yun Luofeng really had a son. What followed was a bellyful of anger. His cold eyes turned towards Yao Shu. Your disciple is so daring that he even dares to seduce my disciple's husband. Did she really lack men that much? If she's really a man, there are so many students in the academy who would definitely be willing to have sex with her. Usually, Shuang was very gentle, and even Su Kong and the others rarely saw her angry. But now, she was clearly unable to control her anger, and her words were very poisonous. Shuang! Yao Shu raged. You humiliated Meng Qi. Shuang sneered, it was she who did such a shameless thing. How can you blame others for humiliating her? Ha ha ha. Yao Shu was so angry that he started laughing. Good elder of the East Institution. It seems that you really want to protect Yun Luofeng to the end. If that's the case, then we can only decide victory or defeat in one battle. The West Institution and the East Institution had fought openly and secretly for so many years, but they had never shed all pretense of cordiality. But now, for Yun Luofeng, the elders of the two institutions stood on opposite sides. Chapter 1274. It would be a lie to say that he wasn't touched. Yun Luofeng had his own goals when he first came to the academy. he didn't really treat them as his masters. But these elders had always treated him as a disciple. A warm current flowed through his heart. Yun Luofeng's lips curled into a devilish smile and his black eyes glowed. Yun Shao, if my masters can't beat Yao Shu and the others, then you don't have to care so much. Okay. Yun Shao hugged Yun Luofeng's body gently and looked at Yao Shu and the others coldly. The entire entrance of the academy instantly became tense. All the disciples of the academy hid far away, deeply afraid that the battle between the two sides would affect them. Hu Li walked in front of Yun Luofeng and smiled. I didn't think that Yao Mingqi's injury was really because of you guys. Yun Luofeng glanced at him. Your heart aches. Immediately, Hu Li fell silent. He looked at Yun Luofeng resentfully. I have nothing to do with Yao Mingqi. Why should I feel sorry for her? On the contrary, she thinks that I like her and keeps pestering me. I've explained it many times, but she still thinks that I love her deeply. Hu Li was helpless. Suddenly, he thought of something and couldn't help but laugh. Oh right, I heard from Yao Mingqi not long ago that she saw a man abusing his child. I didn't expect that she was talking about your husband. Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows and gestured for him to continue. Yao Mingqi said that this child is very pitiful and your husband is also pitiful. On the contrary, you abandoned your husband and child for an evil woman. Unforgivable. It's because you abandoned your husband that he became so cold and heartless. That's why your child was abused like this. TSK, I really don't know how she saw this. Yun Zhao's dark eyes stared at Yun Luofeng. You can't abandon your husband and child. He thought about it and added, I've already become yours. You can't pull up your pants and deny it. Ever since the old man said that he would not recognize anyone if he pulled up his pants, Yun Shao often said this. She smiled helplessly. After a while, we'll go back and get married. Okay. A smile gradually surfaced in Yun Zhao's eyes. Feng I'll let you marry in style. A grand wedding. In Yun Luofeng's mind, the scene of Yun Shao delivering the betrothal gift surfaced. Just the proposal alone was already so sensational. Just how glorious would the grand marriage that Yun Shao spoke of be? Just as the two of them were stuck together like glue, Yao Shu had already taken the initiative to attack Su Kong and the others. Once they reached this level, it would be very difficult for others to intervene in the battle. Therefore, the Academy's disciples could only see a few figures fighting in the void, but they were unable to determine their strength. Is this the power of an Academy elder? He was so powerful that no one could match him. Boom boom boom. In the void, countless streams of energy spread out, causing the entire sky to turn gray. It was as if a layer of dust had covered the originally azure sky. Elder. Just as the two sides were locked in a fierce battle, a panicked voice rushed over. I sensed a power coming from the wormhole in the Academy. If I'm not wrong, someone must have come through the wormhole. What? In the void, the two sides separated. They looked at each other with shock in their eyes. Chapter 1275. Someone came through the wormhole. Could it be? It's the Dean, it must be the Dean. Shuang was overjoyed. I met the Dean about 10 years ago. I haven't seen him for 10 years. I didn't expect the Dean to come back at this time. Su Kong and the others were also surprised, forgetting about the battle just now. Yao Shu, since the Dean is back, let's seek justice from the Dean. Su Kong looked at Yao Shu and his lips curled into a cold smile. Yao Shu laughed and his eyes were filled with anger. Even if the Dean is back, he will definitely stand on my side. After all, my disciple was crippled by Yun Luofeng. Don't tell me that I don't even have the right to seek justice. You just listened to your disciple's side of the story and you think that my disciple was in the wrong first. Shuang said coldly. The dean will naturally seek justice for this matter. Let's go and pardon her now. After saying this, she walked to Yun Luofeng's side and said, Feng, don't be afraid. The dean will definitely seek justice for us. Yun Luofeng smiled evilly. Yun Xiao, let's go and join in the fun. At the same time, let's see what kind of person the dean is. The West Continent Academy's wormhole was located at the back of the mountain. Other than the elders, no one else had the right to enter the back of the mountain. At this moment, at the entrance of a cave in the back of the mountain, the elders looked nervous as they stared unblinkingly at the entrance of the cave. In an instant, a ray of light flashed and a coquettish man slowly walked out of the cave. His red clothes were brighter than blood and he was peerless. It seems that I have been discovered. The man's red lips curled into a smile. His clothes were always half open and he was coquettish and flirtatious. Greetings, Dean. All the elders knelt down and greeted him respectfully. The man held the back of his head with both hands and narrowed his eyes. His gaze swept across the crowd and in the next moment, he found Yun Luofeng standing behind the crowd. Yun Luofeng was stunned. Ji Zhoutian was the dean of the West Continent Academy. Was this world so small? She actually bumped into him here. Yun Xiao felt the change in the girl next to him and held her hand tightly. He looked at Ji Zhoutian coldly and became slightly vigilant. Dean! Yao Shu stood up from the ground and cried, You have to help me. My disciple was injured and her hands and feet were broken, but these people from the East Courtyard still want to protect her. This is really infuriating. Ji Zhoutian withdrew his gaze from Yun Luofeng and raised his eyebrows at the elders. I want to know what exactly happened. Principal, Shuang glared fiercely at Yao Shu. It was Yao Shu's disciple who tried to seduce my disciple's man. That's why I took revenge. Hee hee. Yao Shu sneered and said mockingly, My disciple needs to seduce men. Especially when the other party was someone else's man. This woman can't compare to my disciple in any way, and now she wants to frame her. His gaze was directed at Yun Luofeng. Ji Zhoutian looked at Yun Luofeng again, and the corners of his lips curled up into a meaningful smile. You said that the person who crippled your disciple was Yun Luofeng. Yao Shu did not react for a moment and replied, That's right, it was Yun Luofeng. She abused her own son and my disciple saw it, so she crippled my disciple. Principal, you. Chapter 1276. Suddenly, Yao Shu reacted and stared at Ji Zhoutian with widened eyes. Dean. You. How did you know her name is Yun Luofeng? Ji Zhoutian smiled. Her smile was as wild and domineering as usual. Unfortunately, this girl is my friend. Friend? Yao Shu widened his eyes in shock and stared at Ji Zhoutian in disbelief. At this moment, he even suspected that there was something wrong with his ears. Did the dean just say Yun Luofeng was his friend? Yao Shu's face paled at this moment. He took 2 steps back and stumbled before falling to the ground. Despair filled his heart. Ji Zhoutian slowly walked towards Yao Shu. Based on my understanding of Yun Luofeng, she would never provoke anyone. On the contrary, there are often blind people who provoke her. If it wasn't for your daughter angering her, she wouldn't have crippled her. Also, Ji Zhoutian paused, his smile was sinister. You said that Yun Luofeng can't compare to your disciple. Which means that there's something wrong with my judgment, right? Yao Shu's lips trembled slightly. He laughed dryly, Dean, this is a misunderstanding. Everything is a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding. Ji Zhoutian laughed wildly, then why didn't you say it was a misunderstanding before? When I said that Yun Luofeng was my friend, you said it was a misunderstanding. It seems that in the 10 years that I left, West Continent Academy was indeed not as good as before. Su Kong and the others looked at each other. They never thought that Yun Luofeng would be the dean's disciple, this matter was too unexpected, and it shook everyone's hearts. Yun Luofeng, Huli looked at Yun Luofeng resentfully. Why didn't you say so earlier that you knew the dean? Yun Luofeng narrowed his eyes. I didn't know that other than being the ancestor of the Ji family, this guy was also the dean of West Continent Academy. What other identities does he have? I'm interested. Hearing this, Yun Xiao quickly turned Yun Luofeng's head around so that she could look at her. She said jealously, it's enough that you're interested in me, you don't need to be interested in him. Dean. Ling Hai looked at Yao Shu. Whenever he thought about how Yao Shu wanted to make a move on his disciple, the anger in his heart would surge. How should we punish Yao Shu for his actions? Ji Zhoutian glanced at Yao Shu. Send him to the criminal court for punishment. Also, throw his disciple over as well. Every force had their own rules. That was the reason why the criminal division existed. Ji Zhoutian was not a kind person to begin with. How could the punishment he set be easy? Therefore, the moment Yao Shu is sent to the Hall of Crime, his life will be worse than death. Yao Shu knew this as well. His legs turned to jelly and he collapsed to the ground. His expression changed from one of high spirits to one of despair. Ji Zhoutian walked toward Yun Luofeng. A smile appeared on his beautiful face, and a ray of light flashed in his long and narrow eyes. Long time no see. His lips curled into a light smile. After greeting them, he turned his gaze towards Yun Xiao. Of these two men, one was cold and expressionless, while the other was flirtatious and elegant. A light breeze lifted their robes. The two of them stood side by side, but they were not inferior to each other. Ji Zhoutian. Ji Zhoutian slowly said his name. Yun Luofeng's man. This was Yun Zhao's self-introduction. He did not say his name. Instead, he said that he was Yun Luofeng's man. Chapter 1277. You're very strong. Ji Zhoutian smiled. His smile was wild, and his eyes were filled with arrogance as if he did not care about the world. I wonder if I can fight with you. All right. Yun Xiao slowly released the young girl in his arms and shot a cold and grim gaze towards Ji Zhoutian as he spoke expressionlessly. Yun Xiao. Yun Luofeng tugged on Yun Zhao's sleeve and frowned. I don't know what level Ji Zhoutian is at. As if afraid that Yun Luofeng would worry, Yun Zhao's eyes softened. He patted her hand and said, wait for me. Yun Luofeng gently let go of him. She stared at the man's handsome and cold face and her lips curled into a smile. All right, I'll wait for you. She believed in Yun Xiao. Since Yun Xiao had promised Ji Zhoutian, he had the strength to fight. Yun Xiao kissed Yun Luofeng's forehead and said softly, I'll be back soon. He raised his head and looked at Ji Zhoutian. His expression turned cold once again. Let's go. Ji Zhoutian laughed wildly. I'd like to experience the Ghost Emperor's power. Ghost Emperor. When the elders who had yet to leave heard Ji Zhoutian's words, all their gazes instantly landed on Yun Zhao's face. The headmaster had called him the Ghost Emperor. Could this man be the legendary Ghost Emperor who had destroyed the Limitless sect on his own? Yao Shu fainted from the shock. He could have offended anyone but the Ghost Emperor. Based on the Ghost Emperor's power, even if all the elders attacked him at the same time, they might not be his match. At that moment, Yao Shu finally understood why this man had dared to attack Meng Qi. He had the ability to look down on the West Continent College. The funny thing was, it was too late for regrets. Yao Mingqi lay on the bed, waiting for Yao Shu's good news. But in the end, a group of guards tied her up and dragged her to the penal court. What do you want? How dare you attack me? My master won't let you off. When the guard heard this, he sneered coldly, you mean Elder Yao Shu? Oh, no, he's no longer an elder. He can't even protect himself, how could he care about you? Unable to protect himself. Yao Mingqi shuddered, her face filled with terror. How could this be? How could father be unable to protect himself? Didn't he go find Yun Luofeng to vent his anger on him? Could it be that the elders of the East Courtyard stopped him? Don't try to scare me. I know that the people in charge of the criminal division are from the East Courtyard. Those old guys from the East Courtyard have always been on the opposite side of my master. It must be the people from the East Courtyard who want to take revenge on my master. That's why they ordered you to catch me. You'd better let me go, otherwise, my master will not let you go. Shut up. The guard felt that Yao Mingqi was too noisy, so he took off his socks and stuffed them into her mouth. A wave of foot odor assaulted Yao Mingqi's nostrils, almost causing her to faint. 2 streams of tears hung from the corners of her eyes as she let out a whimper. No matter how much Yao Mingqi struggled, she was eventually thrown into the criminal court. Mingqi! Yao Shu's heart broke when he saw Yao Mingqi thrown in. He scrambled over to Yao Mingqi, took the stinky sock out of her mouth, and threw it to the side. Father! Yao Mingqi threw herself into Yao Shu's arms, crying herself hoarse. Just now, those 2 guards were so rough with me. Father, you must take revenge for me. Tear them to pieces. Chapter 1278. Yao Shu's expression changed. He raised his hand to touch Yao Mingqi's back, but found that he did not know where to start. Yao Mingqi did not notice Yao Shu's strange behavior. She was still angrily complaining about the 2 guards, and even told Yao Shu to cut them into pieces. Mingqi. Yao Shu sighed and smiled bitterly. This time, I'm afraid I can't help you. Father. Yao Mingqi raised her teary eyes and looked at Yao Shu in confusion. Father, what do you mean? What do you mean by I can't help him? Your father's meaning is very simple. He can't even protect himself, how can he help you? It was unknown when Ling Hai had appeared in the criminal hole. He crossed his arms in front of his chest and looked at the father and daughter who were hugging each other with disdain. You're talking nonsense. Yao Mingqi glared at Ling Hai. My father is an elder like you, what right do you have to punish him? Ling Hai smiled coldly. You probably don't know, but the dean has returned. Furthermore, he personally sent your father to the criminal court. What? Yao Mingqi was stunned. Her eyes were filled with disbelief as she looked down at Yao Shu. Father, he's lying to me, right? You're an elder of the school, why did the dean send you to the criminal court to be punished? Yao Shu lowered his head. He did not dare to look at Yao Mingqi's bright eyes, afraid that he would break down. Yao Mingqi, you still dare to ask why he was punished? Isn't this all your fault? Ling Hai's eyes were sharp. You framed Yun Luofeng and caused your father to be punished. Yao Mingqi's body trembled. Her eyes flashed. What did you say? When did I frame her? Don't make things up. You took a liking to Yun Luofeng's husband and framed her so that your father would stand up for you. But you didn't know that our dean and Yun Luofeng were old friends. Because of this, he sent your father to the criminal court to be punished. The dean and Yun Luofeng were old friends. Yao Mingqi bit her lips tightly as her body trembled violently. Impossible. She didn't believe any of this. Absolutely not. Also. Ling Hai paused for a moment, then continued, the man you like is the Ghost Emperor who has recently caused a huge commotion in the Western continent. Boom. This last piece of news once again blew up Yao Mingqi's mind. Her mind was a complete mess, and she was completely unable to walk out from this kind of shock. That cold-faced man was the rumored Ghost Emperor. It was said that the Ghost Emperor wore a mask all year round, so no one knew what he looked like. Even he had guessed that the Ghost Emperor was so ugly that he didn't dare to show his face, which was why he used a mask. However, she never expected that the legendary Ghost Emperor would be so handsome. Yao Mingqi bit her lips tighter and tighter, blood dripping from her lips. She wanted to digest this information in her heart, but her mind was filled with the man's incomparably handsome face. Ling Hai, I will definitely take revenge on you for injuring me today. Furthermore, there are so many people in the Western continent who want to kill the Ghost Emperor. If I were to spread word of this, the Western Continent Academy would also be implicated. At that time, you will probably suffer the wrath of all the strong cultivators in the mainland. Yao Shu's eyes were fierce. His voice carried a hint of threat. Of course, if you let me go, I might keep this matter to myself forever. Chapter 1279. Ling Hai sneered, the dean has given his orders. Once you enter the criminal court, there is no need for you to leave. Tell me, how are you going to spread this news? Moreover, if I let you leave, I'm afraid the academy will truly be in danger. Boom! This news caused Yao Shu's body to tremble. He suddenly got up from the ground and charged at Ling Hai like a madman. I don't believe it, I don't believe that the dean would be so cruel. I have served the school for so many years. No, I want to see the dean. Let me see the dean. Get lost. Ling Hai roared in anger and violently pushed Yao Shu's body with his palm. He patted his clothes and sneered, Yao Shu, you and your daughter reap what you sow. If you hadn't targeted my disciple first, you wouldn't have ended up like this. Court Master Jean, the dean has ordered that these two cannot be left alive. With that, Ling Hai waved his sleeves, turned around and left. Father. Yao Mingqi looked hopelessly at Yao Shu, tears streaming down her cheeks. You must have a way to save me, I don't want to die. Yao Shu laughed bitterly. He couldn't even protect himself, how could he save Yao Mingqi? Mingqi, it was father who harmed you and father who couldn't protect you. I have offended the dean, only death awaits me. Hearing Yao Shu's words, Yao Mingqi's face filled with despair. At this moment, she finally understood the meaning of regret. After Yun Luofeng left the school, she asked Huli to buy her medicinal ingredients. Fortunately, the Western continent had an abundance of medicinal ingredients. In a short while, Huli had brought the ingredients she needed. Once she had the ingredients, she went to the kitchen to brew the medicine. She then poured the little Loli's tears into the medicine pot. In an instant, a fragrant scent wafted into her nose, making her feel refreshed. Master, after you finish this bowl of medicine, your hand will recover. Little Amo stood beside Yun Luofeng and blinked her eyes as she spoke. Without hesitation, Yun Luofeng poured the medicine into the bowl and drank it in one gulp. As the medicine entered her body, she tried moving her right hand. Her originally immobile right hand could finally move freely. Her hand had completely recovered. I haven't exercised my right hand for a long time, so it's a little stiff. Little Mo, I'm going to practice. Remember to call me when Yun Xiao comes back. All right. Little Mo nodded, I will inform you when Yun Xiao returns. Hearing this, Yun Luofeng walked into the backyard without saying anything. However, Yun Xiao only returned when night fell. When Yun Luofeng saw Yun Xiao, he asked, how is it? Who won between you and Ji Jiutian? In the face of Yun Luofeng's question, Yun Xiao replied honestly, it was a draw. A draw. Is Ji Jiutian so powerful? Yun Luofeng narrowed his eyes as a glint flashed across his eyes. Master, Ji Jiutian is an old demon who has lived for so many years. How can he not be strong? Little Mo appeared out of nowhere and curled his lips. His childish face was filled with speechlessness. That was true. Compared to Yun Xiao, Ji Jiutian had already lived for far too long. Otherwise, the Ji family would not have treated him as their ancestor and he would not have become the academy's principal. Master, when you see Ji Jiutian tomorrow, don't forget to ask for the fruit of the soul. Little Mo's eyes darted around. Yun Luofeng came to the West Continent Academy for the fruit of the soul. Now that he had a relationship with Ji Jiutian, how could he not make use of it? Fruit of the soul. Yun Xiao was silent for a moment before he took out a red fruit from his lapel. Are you talking about this? Chapter 1280. That's right, this is the fruit of the soul. Yun Luofeng took the scarlet fruit from Yun Xiao and asked in confusion, why do you have the fruit of the soul? Ji Jiutian threw it to me before he left. Although Yun Xiao regarded Ji Jiutian as a rival in love, he would not hide what he had done. Hence, he told Yun Luofeng the truth. Hearing this, Yun Luofeng's heart clenched. She put the fruit of the soul away and a smile appeared on her beautiful face. I will thank him properly the next time I see him. Yun Zhao's gaze fell on the young girl. You came to the West Continent Academy for the fruit of the soul. Yun Luofeng nodded. Xiao Bai is injured, she needs the fruit of the soul to recover. Then why didn't you tell me? Yun Xiao took 2 steps closer to Yun Luofeng. As long as you say the word, I can snatch as many fruits of the soul as you want. Yun Luofeng shook her head. Yun Xiao, the elders of the East Academy have treated me well and have given their all for me. I don't intend to fall out with them, so I didn't tell you anything. Just as she finished speaking, the man's arms suddenly reached out and pulled her into his embrace. He kissed the young girl's lips fiercely. Don't look. Xiao Mo hurriedly covered her eyes. Master, Yun Xiao, you can kiss slowly. I won't disturb you. A cunning glint flashed across his eyes. He quickly walked out of the room and closed the door. Yun Luofeng was out of breath from Yun Zhao's kiss. After a long while, the man finally moved his lips away. She also took this opportunity to take a few deep breaths. Feng Yun Zhao's finger gently stroked the young girl's lips. In the future, don't hide anything from me. Meeting the man's deep black eyes, Yun Luofeng nodded gently. All right. No matter what you want, I can take it for you. Yun Xiao lowered his head and said with a determined expression, even if you want the entire world. As long as Yun Luofeng asked, so what if he took the entire world? If he could exchange it with a smile from her, the world was nothing. Yun Luofeng narrowed her eyes. She took 2 steps forward and pressed Yun Zhao's body tightly against the wall. She raised her head and kissed the man's lips forcefully. Yun Xiao, tonight, I'll be on top. Outside the courtyard, the night breeze blew gently. The man in red stood on the branch, his gaze fixed on the brightly lit courtyard. His long and narrow eyes flashed with an almost undetectable light. Master. 2 beautiful maids landed behind the red-robed man and said respectfully. Yao Shu and his daughter have been dealt with. The red-robed man's voice was domineering and arrogant. A rose-like smile blossomed on his bewitching face. His smile was beautiful, but it was also sharp and unapproachable. Reporting to Master, Yao Shu wanted to escape with Yao Mingqi. This subordinate has already killed him. The maid lowered her head and respectfully replied. All right, let's go. After disappearing for 10 years, I should let those people in the Western continent know that I'm still alive. Ji Jiutian flicked his sleeves and turned around. His red robes were like the scorching sun, exceptionally eye-catching in the dark night. The maids did not even dare to lift their heads. However, from the corner of their eyes, they could see the bruises on that beautiful face. Master was injured. The Ghost Emperor's power had already grown to such an extent that even their master had been injured by him. Chapter 1281. Western Continent. Inside the Continent Lord's mansion. A middle-aged man with a dignified expression sat upright on a chair at the head of the table. Below him were the leaders of the various powers, and 2 beautiful maids were behind the middle-aged man, lightly hammering his shoulders as they bowed and groveled. Continent Lord, this Western Continent Academy is looking down on us too much. We've sent people to look for them a few times, asking them to join our ranks, but they've always rejected us. That's right, the Western Continent Academy is too arrogant, completely looking down on everyone. Do they think that Ji Zhoutian is still in the academy? Without Ji Zhoutian, how can the Western Continent Academy be so arrogant? Everyone looked at each other, denouncing the Western Continent Academy. In their eyes, Ji Zhoutian had already disappeared for more than 10 years, which meant that he had given up on the Western Continent Academy. The current Western Continent Academy had long since fallen to the middle of the river, and was no different from them. If that was the case, what qualifications did the Western Continent Academy have to be arrogant? The middle-aged man slightly lowered his brows. It was obvious that he was very dissatisfied with the actions of the Western Continent Academy. A ruthless light flashed past his eyes, and he said coldly, "If the Western Continent Academy does not join us to encircle and annihilate the Ghost Emperor, then there is no need for the Western Continent Academy to exist." Continent Lord is wise. Everyone was overjoyed. They had long since disliked the Western Continent Academy. They really didn't know where these people got their arrogance from, to dare to look down on them. Now, with a single sentence from the Continent Lord, it meant that the Western Continent Academy, it would disappear in the long flow of history. Continent Lord, I suggest that we bring our troops to attack the Western Continent Academy now. An old man stood up and said angrily, "It's good to let the people of the Western Continent understand how foolish it is to disobey the orders of the Continent Lord's mansion." The Continent Lord's mansion was the highest authority in the entire continent. The 7 continents had 7 countries, and the one who ruled over these 7 countries was the Continent Lord's mansion. It was no different from the dynasties of the other continents. "Let's go." It was Unknown who waved his hand, but the others also stood up. Their voices of condemnation spread throughout the night sky of the entire Western Continent Prefecture. Everyone raised their fists, wishing that they could annihilate the Western Continent Academy and the Ghost Emperor at the same time. At that moment, a chuckle pierced through the air and reverberated in everyone's ears like thunder. "Who?" The Continent Lord's face suddenly darkened. His sharp gaze shot forward, and a murderous intent spread from his eyes. Under the night sky, the red robe was like blood, as if it had dyed the entire night red. The man was like an extremely seductive flower, beautiful yet dangerous, full of sharpness. After seeing the domineering face of the man, the expressions of the people from the Continent Lord's mansion changed from anger to shock, and finally turned pale. "I've only disappeared for 10 years, but you're already looking down on me. It seems like you want to taste the price of blood from more than 10 years ago again." The night breeze blew, lifting the man's blood-red robe. His eyes were smiling, and the corners of his lips curled up into an arrogant and unruly smile. If it was said that Yun Shao was a god of death, then he was undoubtedly a devil god. Even if it was just a smile, it would send chills down one's spine, leaving one so nervous that one would find it hard to breathe. "You? Why are you back?" The Continent Lord's lips trembled. He looked at the domineering man standing under the night sky like a red rose in fear. Involuntarily, a chill rose in his heart, and his body gradually trembled. Chapter 1282. More than 10 years ago, they had tried to kill Ji Zhoutian just like how they had surrounded the Ghost Emperor today. They would never forget that day when blood dyed the entire Western continent red. Corpses were everywhere, and countless ghostly wails and wolf howls resounded in the Western continent for half a month. It could be seen how many vengeful souls had died in his hands. That day, the setting sun was as red as blood, and the man's red clothes were very bright. He was like a god of death that had walked out of hell. The sword in his hand was like a scythe that harvested lives, easily taking away a bright red life. Originally, the Western continent's forces were not as backward as they were now. Back then, the Western continent was one of the best among the 7 continents. It was because of that battle that the former Continent Lord had died at the hands of this man. Countless experts had been annihilated, causing the current Western continent to fall behind to such an extent. Everything was caused by this man. Ji Jotian's domineering eyes gradually swept towards the continent lord. The smile on his beautiful face was filled with contempt. His eyes were as if he was looking at an ant, disdainful. Compared to the previous continent lord, you are really far inferior. At least when he saw me, his legs wouldn't tremble and he wouldn't even be able to sit steadily. Gulp. The continent lord swallowed hard and said with a trembling voice, Ji Jotian, I remember that more than 10 years ago, you were also injured quite badly. It seems that even now, your strength has not recovered to its peak. Even if my legs and hands were crippled, it would still be easy for me to take your lives. What was insolence? Everyone present had experienced this word from this man. But who gave him the right to be arrogant? Regardless of whether Ji Jotian's strength had recovered or not, they did not dare to take this risk. The scene from more than 10 years ago had brought too much shock to their hearts. So much so that even now, it still made them feel fear. Not to mention fighting, they did not even dare to look at Ji Jotian. I came here today to tell you, don't think that just because I disappeared for 10 years, you can do whatever you want to the Western Continent Academy. The man slightly raised his eyebrows, his tone arrogant and domineering, incomparably insolent. Even if I don't like this Western Continent Academy, it is still left behind by my old friend. I have the right to let it exist forever. No one could say that a force could exist forever in this world. On this continent, if one was not careful, a force could be destroyed. However, no one dared to refute Ji Jotian. With Ji Jotian's power, the power he wanted to protect would definitely exist forever. Also, Ji Jotian laughed maniacally, the Ghost Emperor is not someone you can provoke. I advise you not to provoke him. The continent lord's face turned even paler. Ji Jotian, we can promise not to act against the West Continent Academy, but aren't you meddling too much? Our encirclement and annihilation of the Ghost Emperor is our business, it has nothing to do with you. This sentence, he said it very strongly, but his trembling legs had already revealed the fear in his heart. His long and narrow eyes fell on the continent lord and the smile on Ji Jotian's lips carried a trace of coldness. It is indeed your business to encircle and kill the Ghost Emperor, but if you hurt the little girl by his side, then I will have to interfere. In the Wuhui mainland, he did not care about Yun Luofeng's matters, he did not even provide her with any help. Chapter 1283. That was because he knew very well that the clowns of the Wuhui continent could not touch her. The 7 continents, on the other hand, were different. Before Yun Luofeng grew up, he had the obligation to sweep away all troubles for her. The continent lord's eyes widened in shock. He did not understand what Ji Jotian meant. Ji Jotian swept a cold glance at the continent lord. His domineering gaze contained a cold glint and murderous intent. If I find out that you dare to have any designs on the Ghost Emperor again, I will clean up the Western continent. The man's arrogant and unruly voice exploded in the continent lord's mansion. Even when the man in the blood-red robe turned around and left, the people of the continent lord's mansion had not regained their senses. After a long while, someone asked, Continent Lord, what should we do next? What should we do? The continent lord laughed bitterly. What can we do? Are you going to offend Ji Jotian? That fellow is a madman who kills without blinking an eye. Continent Lord, an old man's eyes flickered and said, Ji Jotian is so powerful and he is not used by the Western continent. It's such a pity. Why don't we choose a woman to seduce him? All heroes have a weakness for the charms of beauties. As long as a woman can win his favor, he will definitely listen to our orders from then on. The continent lord laughed coldly. Have you forgotten how the war started more than 10 years ago? The daughter of the previous continent lord fell in love with Ji Jotian at first sight. The previous continent lord doted on his daughter and thought of ways to let his daughter get close to Ji Jotian. However, just as she expressed her love, she was thrown out by Ji Jotian. She relied on the power of the continent lord's mansion to force Ji Jotian. As a result, she completely angered that madman. What happened next was basically public knowledge. In a fit of rage, Ji Jyotian crippled the eldest daughter of the continent lord's mansion. This incurred the wrath of the experts of the western continent, and they began to hunt Ji Jyotian down. There were more than 10,000 experts in the western continent. Each of them was extremely powerful. However, that madman had carved out a bloody path in front of so many people. Trying to use a woman to lure a madman. As soon as you reveal your thoughts, you'll immediately become a dead soul under my blade. Therefore, this kind of thinking is useless to Ji Jyotian. The continent lord narrowed his eyes. Back then, the daughter of the previous continent lord, who was publicly acknowledged as the #1 beauty in the western continent, was not attractive to him at all. What kind of beauty do you think can attract his attention? Suddenly, a young man in the crowd spoke up. Just now, Ji Jyotian said that he helped the Ghost Emperor not because of the Ghost Emperor, but because of the woman by his side. If this woman is not by the Ghost Emperor's side, can we encircle and annihilate the Ghost Emperor? At this moment, the young man seemed to have forgotten what Ji Jyotian had said earlier. The Ghost Arch was not someone they could provoke. It was precisely because they had neglected this sentence that the tragedy from 10 years ago had happened again in the western continent. That's a good idea. The continent lord's eyes flickered. Ji Jyotian is already very terrifying in the western continent. We can't have another Ghost Emperor. Therefore, we have to kill the Ghost Emperor before he matures. Otherwise, how would he be the continent lord of the western continent in the future? This continent lord will find someone to handle this matter. You guys can leave first. Also, no one is allowed to leak any information about today's meeting. If this continent lord finds out that someone has spread the news, this continent lord will hunt you down even if you are 1,000 miles away. I won't rest until you are dead. A murderous intent flashed across the continent lord's eyes. An awe-inspiring aura spread out from his body and was filled with killing intent. Chapter 1284. The Divine Grimoire Space. Just as Yun Luofeng appeared in the middle of the field, Xiaomo spotted her and surrounded her with the other gold-seeking mice. Master! He called out obediently. His voice was so soft and adorable that it could melt anyone's heart. Have you fed her the fruit of the spirit? Yun Luofeng glanced at Lin Ruobai, who was lying flat on the flowers, and asked. Xiaomo nodded. This is the second fruit of the spirit. Now, there's only one left. As long as she consumes 3 fruits of the spirit, her soul will gradually recover. One more. Yun Luofeng gently stroked her chin as a light flashed in her eyes. It looked like it was time for her to leave the West Continent Academy and search for the 3rd fruit of the spirit. Master, congratulations on your right hand. It's finally back to normal. Xiaomo's face lit up with a brilliant smile. Her eyes were like the stars in the night sky, flashing with a bright light. Perhaps there was nothing that made her happier than seeing Yun Luofeng's right hand recover. By the way, Master, when will you get more medicinal herbs? These herbs are not enough for the gold-seeking mice. Xiaomo felt wronged and her eyes were full of resentment. Besides, the little tree needs medicinal herbs to grow. The more medicinal herbs there are, the faster it will grow. The spiritual herbs are not enough for them now. Yun Luofeng gently narrowed her eyes and swept them across the field under the blue sky. Wait until I find the 3rd fruit of the spirit. I'll come back and settle the matter here. Yun Xiao is still waiting for me outside. I'll be leaving first. Just as he finished speaking, a white light flashed and Yun Luofeng's figure disappeared. On the bed, the young girl had just opened her eyes when she met a pair of deep and serene eyes. At that moment, her soul seemed to be drawn into those eyes and she could not look away. Yun Xiao. You're awake. Yun Xiao hugged the young girl's body tightly from the side. His handsome and cold face lit up with a small smile. Even though his smile was very shallow, it was enough to deeply attract Yun Luofeng. She looked at the man before her and realized that she could not get enough of him. Especially his exquisite figure, she could not help but touch it forcefully. If you want to touch, you can touch as much as you want. The man's voice was low and hoarse, ringing in her ear like a curse. Once upon a time, this man was so adorable that he didn't even know what warming the bed meant. But the current Yun Xiao had already grown into a real man. Yun Xiao, tell me more about the forces in the 7 continents. Yun Luofeng knew that now was not the time to tease this man. She stretched lazily and rested her head on her hands. Her evil eyes stared at the man beside her with a smile. The man glanced at her. The 7 continents are divided into a few big continents. These big continents are the West Continent, East Continent, North Continent, South Continent, Central Continent, Ling Continent, and Beast Continent. Yun Luofeng was silent. Chen Yuqing had told her about these continents before. Among them, the Western Continent's power is the weakest. However, over a decade ago, the Western Continent wasn't at its current level. Yun Xiao muttered to himself for a moment before continuing. Over a decade ago, a single person had killed all the powerful cultivators in the Western Continent, including the Continent Lord, causing them to lag behind the Western Continent by 100 years. Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows slightly. Who is that person? Ji Zhoutian. Ji Zhoutian. Yun Luofeng was a little shocked. Ji Zhoutian had single-handedly challenged all the cultivators in the Western Continent. Does he actually have this kind of power? Chapter 1285. Yun Xiao, who is stronger between you and Ji Zhoutian? Yun Luofeng asked after a moment of silence. Last night. Yun Xiao paused for a moment and said, he and I didn't use our true abilities, we only fought with our bare hands. So, I'm not clear about his strength. Hand-to-hand combat. The corner of Yun Luofeng's mouth twitched. No matter how strong Ji Zhoutian was, he chose to fight Yun Xiao hand-to-hand. Wasn't this equivalent to admitting defeat? Yun Xiao had stayed in the forest of no return for 7 years and he had long tempered a body of strength. If Ji Zhoutian didn't use his spiritual energy, he wouldn't be his match. As for last night, when Yun Xiao claimed that the two of them fought to a draw, it was most likely because he could not figure out Ji Zhoutian's strength, so he said that, Yun Xiao, do you know who Ji Zhoutian is? Not only is he the ancestor of the Ji clan, he is also the dean of the West Continent Academy, then he is definitely not just in his 20s. Yun Zhao's fingers lightly stroked Yun Luofeng's beautiful hair. He and Bai Su are the same kind of people. However, he is also different from Bai Su. Bai Su will harm you, but he won't. Logically speaking, he should have treated Ji Zhoutian as a love rival after seeing how special Ji Zhoutian was to Yun Luofeng. However, he didn't do so. Instead, he put in a good word for him in front of Yun Luofeng. Yun Luofeng held Yun Zhao's hand tightly. Yun Xiao, you don't oppose Ji Zhoutian. Why are you speaking up for him? Yun Xiao lowered his eyelids. Hence, Yun Luofeng was unable to clearly see what kind of emotions existed in those deep and serene eyes. He can protect you. Yun Xiao, Feng, if I'm by your side, protecting you is my responsibility. Even if I have to risk my life, I won't let you encounter any danger. Yun Xiao slightly raised her eyes, her slender fingers gently stroking the young girl's fine black hair. If there comes a day when I'm no longer around, then I hope that there will be someone else by your side to protect you. I don't want you to be in any danger, and I don't want you to die on this continent. The man's voice was very firm, so firm that Yun Luofeng's heart suddenly tightened. If I'm still alive, then protecting you for the rest of your life is my responsibility. If I'm gone, I naturally hope that someone can protect you on my behalf. That person was Ji Zhoutian. As a man, if he wasn't by his wife's side and let another man protect her instead, he would definitely lose his dignity as a man. But to Yun Xiao, a man's dignity couldn't compare to hers. For her, he could put down his identity as a ghost emperor and give up all his pride. He was willing to serve by her side and take care of everything for her. In that case, was there anything he couldn't do? As long as she was alive, it was better than anything. Yun Xiao. Yun Luofeng suppressed the trembling in his heart and fiercely pressed his lips against Yun Zhao's. The words that escaped her lips were still trembling. In this life, only you are allowed to exist by my side. If you're gone, then I'll go to the ends of the earth. I will definitely find you. The girl's voice was extremely domineering. If you dare to leave me behind and go to hell, then I'll kill my way to hell and drag you out. Don't even think of leaving my side. Even the yellow springs of hell cannot stop me. No matter where you go, I will kill my way there and drag you out. If heaven obstructs me, I will defy it. If God obstructs me, I will kill God. If anyone obstructs me, I will turn this world upside down. Yun Xiao tightly hugged the girl's body and deepened the kiss. After a long time, he finally released his lips and stared at the girl in his arms with a resolute and serious gaze. Chapter 1286. You don't need to pull me. Even if I have to go to the 18th level of hell, I will crawl out myself to see you. After saying this, he kissed the girl's lips once again. The sheets on their bodies slowly fell to the ground. Within the curtains, only the two bodies could be seen entwined together. Finally, the girl turned over and pressed down on the man's body. Her fine black hair fell down, creating a unique scene. East Courtyard. All the elders had gathered and were discussing something. But at this moment, a handsome man and a beautiful woman walked in hand. When they saw the two people walking in, their eyes lit up. Disciple, why are you here? Ling Hai rushed forward excitedly. He looked at this disciple of his, liking him more and more. Yun Luofeng smiled, his gaze sweeping across all the elders present. I'm here to say goodbye. Goodbye? Ling Hai frowned. What, you're leaving? That's right, I still have something to do. Also. Yun Luofeng paused, then said apologetically, Teachers, I have to confess something. All the elders looked at each other, then looked at Yun Luofeng with puzzled eyes. Actually, I came to West Continent Academy and became your disciple because I have my own goals. Yun Luofeng's expression was full of apology. Initially, I sensed the existence of the fruit of the soul in this academy, that's why I wanted to come here. Fruit of the soul. All the elders were astonished. What's the fruit of the soul? They had stayed in this academy for so long, yet they still did not know where the fruit of the soul was. Yun Luofeng smiled. The fruit of the soul was hidden in the academy by Ji Zhoutian. Before he left, he had already brought it to me. But, after all, my goals in becoming your disciples were not pure. I'm sorry. These people really treated her as a disciple. For her, they did not hesitate to fall out with the West Continent elders. No matter what, she had to make things clear. At the same time, she was prepared to be scolded by all the elders. No matter who took in a disciple who was satisfied, if they found out that this disciple had ulterior motives, they would be bitterly disappointed. As expected, after hearing his words, all the elders fell silent, causing the entire East Courtyard to be filled with a silent atmosphere. Yun Xiao seemed to be afraid that Yun Luofeng would be nervous, so she gently squeezed her hand, allowing her power to pass into her body. Logically speaking, with Yun Luofeng's talent and her relationship with Ji Zhoutian, there was no need for her to explain it to the elders. There was no need for her to be as nervous as she was now. But she still came over to explain her purpose. Moreover, her expression did not change, but her heart was filled with nervousness, and her palms were unknowingly covered with sweat. Even though she had faced many experts over the years, she had never been as nervous as she was now. Suddenly, a chuckle came from the East Courtyard and broke the silence. Shuang covered her mouth and chuckled. I was wondering what was the matter. So it's just a small matter. Speaking of which, I still have to thank the soul fruit. If not for it, how would I have the opportunity to accept such an outstanding disciple? Yun Luo Feng was stunned. He asked in disbelief, "You're not angry?" Angry? Ling Hai glared at Yun Luo Feng. Why should we be angry? Are we angry that you didn't tell us this earlier? If you had told us earlier, I would have turned the entire West Continent Academy upside down to find the soul fruit. These people's gazes were not fake. They were also not so tolerant towards Yun Luo Feng because of their respect for Ji Jiutian. Chapter 1287. They really weren't angered by this matter. If they were angry, it would be Yun Luo Feng who did not tell them about this earlier. In this way, they could still help her. Yun Luo Feng's heart was filled with gratitude. A smile appeared on her beautiful face. During the time that Ji Jiutian is not around, if the academy encounters any danger, spread the news. As long as I hear it, I will rush back to help. Whether it was to repay Ji Jiutian for helping her, or for these masters who had treated her as their disciple, she would not be stingy with her help. Disciple, Su Kong smiled, with your talent, it won't be long before you become famous in the mainland. When that time comes, as your masters, we will also be proud. So, you don't have to feel sorry for what happened before. Just as Shuang said, we should be grateful for the fruit of the soul. Otherwise, how could we have received such an outstanding disciple like you? Su Kong was afraid that Yun Luo Feng would blame herself for her previous deception. Hence, he repeated Shui Ying's words. I understand. Yun Luo Feng cupped her fists. Masters, take care. Yun Shao, let's go. Saying so, she looked at the elders one last time, turned around and walked out. Before she left, the atmosphere in the elders' court became quiet once again. Ling Hai secretly wiped the corners of his eyes. Su Kong glanced at him, walked over, patted his shoulder and said, can't bear to part with your disciple. In my entire life, this is the first time I have received such an outstanding disciple. Do you think I can bear to part with her? Ling Hai glared at Su Kong, his expression full of grievance. Her path is very long. We cannot limit her footsteps. As long as we are fated, we will definitely meet again in the future. Shuang smiled. She did not feel too sad. After all, they were on the same mainland and there would definitely be a chance to meet again in the future. What's wrong with all of you? Why are all of you crying? An unclear voice sounded from outside the elders' court. Soon after, an old man slowly walked into the room. Our disciples are about to leave the academy. Ling Hai is sad about the separation. That's right, Extraordinary, why are you back? Shuang raised her eyebrows, looked at Extraordinary who had appeared at the door and asked. Extraordinary was a little confused, what do you mean? Disciples of yours. All of you accepted a disciple at the same time. Who is so lucky to be chosen by you at the same time? Shuang smiled slightly and said, this is our good fortune to be able to accept such an outstanding disciple. Back then, when my disciple was taking the test, the spiritual energy in her body showed no signs of stopping. Because of this, we took a fancy to her talent, and because Su Kong and the others were also fighting to be her master, in the end, we unanimously decided to accept her as a disciple. Wait. Extraordinary scratched his head and frowned. I seem to remember that you promised me that the next genius would be my disciple? Ah. Really? Ling Hai, who was originally sad about the parting, immediately regained his senses when he heard this. He looked at the people beside him suspiciously. Which one of you said that? Why don't I remember? Su Kong and the others looked at the sky, pretending to have lost their memories. I don't remember either. I don't think I said something like that. Shuang, did you say it? I didn't either. I don't remember saying that at all. Extraordinary, you're thinking too much. None of us said anything like that. Chapter 1288. It's enough for my precious disciple to have 5 masters, no more, absolutely no more. Extraordinary, don't even think about her. Extraordinary was so angry that his face turned the color of a pig's liver. These old fellows were really shameless. Not only did they snatch away his disciple when he was not around, they even refused to acknowledge it. I don't care if you remember or not. Anyway, that genius is my disciple. You must give up your position. You can't be so treacherous. How can we get along in the future? Su Kong coughed dryly. Ling Hai, Shuang, it's getting late. Let's go. Yes, it's getting late. Let's go. After saying this, the old man pretended not to see Fifin and walked out of the courtyard, leaving Fifin, who was livid with anger. You shameless old fellows, I want to cut off all ties with you. Extraordinary's roar resounded in the air above the entire Elder's court. Unfortunately, no one responded for a long time. At the academy, Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao walked side by side on the long lawn. The people around them all looked at them. Their eyes were filled with admiration. They did not know about Ji Zhoutian's appearance. They only knew that Yun Luofeng had crippled the disciple of the West Courtyard's elder. In the end, the West Courtyard's elder brought people to settle the score with her but was captured by the duties hall. For her sake, the 2 elders had even shed all pretenses of cordiality. Which disciple in the academy could cause such a stir? It seemed that ever since Yun Luofeng had come to the West Continent Academy, the academy had never been peaceful again. Yun Luofeng. Suddenly, a hurried voice rang out from behind her, causing Yun Luofeng to stop in her tracks. She turned around and saw Hu Li, who was drenched in sweat, walking quickly towards her. He was slightly out of breath. Yun Luofeng, are you leaving the academy? It has to be said that Hu Li's feeling was right. Yun Luofeng was indeed planning to leave the West Continent Academy. Yes. Yun Luofeng nodded and replied. Hu Li's lips curled into a smile. If you are leaving the West Continent Academy, I will go with you. Don't forget, I have already sold myself to you for 10 years. In these 10 years, I will not leave your side and protect you. Yun Luofeng raised her brows and turned to look at Yun Xiao. Only after seeing Yun Xiao nod at her did she look straight at Hu Li. Yun Xiao and I have too many enemies. If you follow us, you will encounter danger. Are you sure you want to follow me from now on? Actually, I was just telling you about the wager that day. I didn't really want you to pledge your loyalty to me. Hu Li's smile was enchanting and charming. I've never taken back what I've promised. What's more, I'm someone who has walked through the edge of a knife. Why would I be afraid of danger? If you're sure you're not afraid of the danger, I can let you follow me. I'm not afraid. Hu Li's eyes were full of flirtatiousness. Yun Luofeng, where do you plan to go next? Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao looked at each other before looking at Hu Li. There's no definite place to go. We'll take it one step at a time. Their goal was the soul fruit. She would go wherever there was a soul fruit. Since that's the case, if you don't mind, I'd like to return home first. All right. Yun Luofeng was silent for a moment. Then I will follow you back. You're leaving now. That's right, where's your son? Hu Li did not seem to notice that Xiao Mo was following behind Yun Luofeng and asked in surprise. Chapter 1289. Of course, Yun Luofeng would not tell him that little Mo had already gone to the divine grimoire space. So, she said, he went to his wife's place. Indeed, Xiao Bai was lying in the divine grimoire space. Now that little Mo was waiting for her, did that not mean that he had gone to his wife's place? Master, in the divine grimoire space, little Mo heard Yun Luofeng's words and shouted rather plaintively, Xiao Bai and I are innocent. Why did you come here to put us together? Yun Luofeng lowered his eyes and smiled faintly. When I first met Yun Xiao, you often talked about dual cultivation in my ear. Little Mo was speechless. Alright, just pretend that he had not said anything. Can't I keep quiet? In any case, I will never marry. Oh no, I will never marry Lin Ruobai. What kind of world is this? Yun Luofeng, who was about to continue teasing little Mo, heard Huli wail. Even a little brat like your son has a wife. I am still single. I can only spend the rest of my life with Miss Five Fingers. Huli's expression was very sad as she said aggrievedly. Yun Luofeng curled his lips into a smile. You seem to only need to beckon and there will be a lot of women coming to you. Yun Xiao seemed to be a little jealous that Yun Luofeng and Huli were talking so much. He hugged Yun Luofeng's waist tightly and glanced at Huli with warning eyes. Huli did not notice the man's warning eyes at all and continued, I have no interest in those vulgar women. You talk too much. As soon as he finished speaking, a low and cold voice suddenly sounded, causing Huli to shiver from the bottom of his heart. Yun Luofeng's man was really a big vinegar jar. Yet, only Yun Luofeng could subdue this kind of man. I will say one last thing, Huli pouted aggrievedly. Yun Luofeng, the first genius on the heaven list is looking for you, saying that he wants to duel with you. Not interested. Yun Luofeng threw down this sentence with a deadpan expression. As if already knowing her choice, Huli smiled, the first person on the heaven list is a real lunatic. As long as she took a fancy to someone, she would keep pestering you until you fought her. In any case, everyone in the academy would take a detour when they saw her. However, they were obviously thinking too much. That madman was only willing to fight with those who were strong. You'd better not let her see it. Otherwise, she'll definitely torture you to battle with her. The genius ranked first on the heaven list was considered a legend in the Western Continent Academy. She had broken through to become a saint ruler in her early 20s, and her outstanding talent had caused all the elders in the academy to fight for her. However, the arrogant her refused to acknowledge any elder as her master. In her life, only fighting was the most carefree thing. At that moment, Yun Luofeng still didn't know that in the near future, she would finally meet the #1 genius on the heaven roll. Moreover, he occupied a very important position in her life. Some people, from strangers to acquaintances, and then to acquaintances, only needed a process. This process was war. At this time, Yun Luofeng didn't know that after getting to know her, that genius had sacrificed more than his entire life. Furthermore, it was life. If she dares to come. The man's voice was low. She can try. Huli's mouth twitched. How could she forget about this man? With this man beside Yun Luofeng, she probably would not be able to get close to Yun Luofeng. Let's go. Yun Luofeng shrugged, turned around and said. Chapter 1290. At the entrance of the courtyard. The guards had just respectfully sent Yun Luofeng and the others off when they felt a gust of wind behind them. By the time they reacted, a gust of wind had blown past, accompanied by a fiery red dress. It almost sent them flying to the ground. That person rushed to the entrance and frowned as she looked in the direction that Yun Luofeng and the others had left. She pondered for a moment, then turned to look at the two dumbfounded guards. Have you seen Yun Luofeng? The woman's red dress was brighter than blood. She raised her chin and looked down from above. When the two guards saw who it was, they swallowed hard, and their legs trembled. She has already left. Whoosh! As soon as she finished speaking, the fiery red dress had already disappeared. There was only the sound of a gentle breeze at the entrance of the courtyard. This sound indicated that what they had just seen was not a dream. Why? Why is she looking for Yun Luofeng? One of the guards felt his heart tremble violently. Could it be that this crazy woman is looking for someone to challenge again? I feel that whoever she fancies will be very miserable. a look of sympathy appeared in the other guard's eyes. Whoever this crazy woman fancies will be hunted down by her. She is like a grasshopper, sticking to you and refusing to let go, until you are willing to fight with her. Of course, you cannot defeat her. If you can defeat her, then from then on, she will endlessly chase after you and endlessly challenge you. This lunatic, the reason why her strength had improved so quickly was definitely related to her tenacious and shameless character. She remembered that when she had just entered the academy, she had started to challenge disciples on the Earth list and climbed up the Sky list step by step. Originally, when she first challenged the former number 1 on the Sky list, she had been defeated. She had lost terribly and had to recuperate for half a year to recover from her injuries. However, her injuries had just healed, so she continued to challenge again. She was defeated again and again, but the more she fought, the braver she became. In the end, her ability finally surpassed the former number 1 on the Sky list and replaced her. It was also after that time that everyone in the academy was terrified of her. In this academy, she was completely isolated and had no friends or confidants. On top of that, she had an arrogant personality and never paid attention to those who were weaker than her. However, ever since she climbed to the top of the Heaven leaderboard, she never challenged anyone again. The biggest reason was that those people were too weak, so she did not take them seriously. Now, the person who made her regain her confidence in challenging was Yun Luo Feng. If she did not fight with Yun Luo Feng, she would not rest. Tell me, can anyone afford to provoke such a lunatic? Should we tell the elders about this? The two guards glanced at each other. In the end, they still went to report this matter to the elders to prevent Yun Luo Feng from being entangled by this madman. When Hu Li stopped at the city gate of Luohua City, Yun Luo Feng and Yun Xiao also stopped. She looked at the somewhat uneasy Hu Li and raised her eyebrows slightly. "You're not going in." A hint of struggle flashed in Hu Li's eyes. "My family is a medical family, but I'm not interested in medicine. 3 years ago, my father wanted to force me to learn medicine. I was unwilling and he planned to force me. In a fit of anger, I left the family and haven't returned for 3 years. After my brother found out that I was in the West Continent Academy, he also came to the academy. However, in these 3 years, he was afraid of making me unhappy, so he didn't tell me about what happened to my family, so I don't know if my father has forgiven me." Chapter 1291. Hu Li felt remorseful when he thought of what had happened in the past. How could he not miss home in the past 3 years? However, he had an unrestrained personality and did not want to be tied down by his father. Moreover, he felt guilty towards his father, so he had not returned for 3 years. Now that he was at his doorstep, he did not know how to step in. Yun Luo Feng patted Hu Li's shoulder. "Since you're back, let's go take a look." "Okay." Hu Li's eyes gradually regained their calm. He took a deep breath and stepped into the city gate. He did not know if it was an illusion, but he felt that when the people on the streets saw him, their eyes first flashed with shock, then immediately filled with sympathy. Hu Li's heart skipped a beat and he quickened his pace to rush back to his family. After not returning for 3 years, his family had already changed a lot. The courtyard was no longer the bustling city it used to be. The 2 stone lions by the door had also been taken away and the steps were covered with red cloth. It was festive yet unfamiliar. Then, when Hu Li raised his head, he found that the once ordinary Hu characters had also become inlaid with gold. Everything was completely different from when he had left. Hu Li took a deep breath and calmed the anxiety in his heart. He walked forward and gently knocked on the door. Not long after, the door was opened and a sneaky little boy stuck his head out. "You! Hu Tao, why are you at my house?" Hu Li's pair of fox-like eyes widened in shock as he stared at the little boy who had appeared at the door. Hu Tao was the son of his second uncle's family. Second uncle and his father had never been on good terms, so why was his second uncle at the Hu family's house? Bang! Hu Tao was also stunned when he saw Hu Li. With a loud bang, he smashed the door hard and refused to let Hu Li in. At this moment, Hu Li recalled the looks he had seen from the people on the street and his handsome face instantly darkened. Hu Tao, open the door. This is my house, I'm not opening it. Hu Tao's proud voice came from inside the door. Bang! Hu Li lifted his leg and kicked the door open. With just one kick, he sent the door flying. Hu Tao's small face turned pale, perhaps because he was frightened by Hu Li's actions. He looked at Hu Li in horror as he walked through the door. Hu Li's handsome face was livid as he strode in. He grabbed Hu Tao's clothes and asked coldly, "Where is my father? Where did my brother go? Why did my Hu clan become your people?" Some time ago, Hu Lin had already returned to the Hu family. That was why Hu Li had asked him where his big brother was. "Let me go." Hu Tao struggled hard in Hu Li's hands. "Some time ago, when your father was treating someone, he caused the person to die. He paid a large sum of money to someone else and even borrowed a lot of money from my father. He used this house to pay off his debts." Hu Tao was young, but every word that came out of his mouth was sharp. "Hu Li, you ran away from home and haven't returned for 3 years. What right do you have to question me? You piece of trash!" Hit him. Bang! Hu Li raised his hand and flung Hu Tao to the ground. He clenched his fists so tightly that his knuckles cracked and the veins on his forehead bulged. "Tell me, where is my father now?" Hu Tao burst into tears. "He's in the slums in the west of the city." "Boo-hoo, you bullied me. I'm going to tell my dad and ask him to kill your whole family. If you say one more word, I'll strangle you to death right now." Sure enough, Hu Tao fell silent when he heard Hu Li's threat. His eyes turned red and he did not dare to say another word. He did not even dare to cry out loud. Chapter 1292. Hu Li turned around with a pale face. He looked at Yun Luofeng and said, "I'm going to settle some personal matters. Wait for me here. Let's go together." Yun Luofeng glanced at Hu Li and said, "Okay." Hu Li nodded and strode out of the courtyard, quickly looking in the direction of the slums. The Hu family used to be a famous family here, especially Hu Li's father, who was known as a famous doctor of his generation. There were countless people who had been cured by him. Therefore, Hu Li only needed to ask and he would be able to get the most accurate direction of his father. At this moment, in a house in the slums, an old man walked out with the help of a man. The old man's hair was white, his face was old, and his face was full of wrinkles, like a chrysanthemum. If Yun Luofeng was here, he would definitely recognize that the person supporting the old man was Hu Lin, whom he had defeated in his first challenge. "Big brother, you've finally come out." The middle-aged man sneered at the old man, his lips curling into a sarcastic arc. "When are you going to pay me back for what you owe me?" "Hu Youwu, don't think that I don't know that you deliberately framed my father. Back then, in order to fight for the power of the Hu family, you schemed to drive my father out of the family. My father no longer fought for a single cent and came out to establish his own family. Now that you saw that his medical skills were excellent and he had some authority in Luohua City, you harbored hatred in your heart and schemed again, causing my father to have an accident when he was treating a patient so that he could borrow money from you." Hu Lin gritted his teeth in anger and glared fiercely at Hu Youwu. Hu Youwu sneered, his lips curling into a sarcastic smile. "It's your father's medical skills that were not good enough and he killed someone. What does that have to do with me? His medical skills were originally half-baked and useless. He can't be compared to me. You." Hu Lin clenched his fists tightly. "My brother is now very famous. When he comes back, he will definitely avenge my father. When that time comes, you will definitely die miserably." "Ha ha ha." Hu Youwu laughed out loud. "Are you talking about that Hu Li who ran away from home for 3 years? TSK, if she was really doing so well in the academy, how could she not have returned for 3 years? From what I can see, he is clearly doing too badly, yet you still dare to brag that he has broken through to the Saint King realm. And he even entered the heaven role. What a joke. Even my, Huyowu's, son doesn't have this ability. What right does Hu Li have to enter the heaven role? Hu Li's current strength was that of a Saint King. Although he was no longer considered a low-level existence in the continent, he was not so strong that he could not be stronger. Of course, the prerequisite was to ignore his age. After all, Hu Li was already a Saint King at the age of 25. In the entire Western continent, perhaps only those people from the Western Continent Academy had such strength. More importantly, there was probably no one who did not know what the Western Continent Academy's Heaven list represented. Once he entered the heavenly ranking, he would definitely attract the attention of the elders in the academy, and would even be taken in as a disciple by those elders. At that time, wouldn't it be equivalent to the power of the Western Continent Academy being used by him? If Hu Li had really reached the heaven list, he would not have dared to do so. Unfortunately, Hu Li had been missing for 3 years. If he had really made a name for himself, wouldn't he have come back to show off? How could he not return for 3 years? This was also the reason why Huyowu did not take Hu Li seriously. Who did you say has been missing for 3 years? Just as Huyowu was mocking him, a gloomy voice came from behind him. Chapter 1293. Hu Lin's body shook. He raised his head and looked at Hu Li, who was slowly walking towards him. His heart filled with joy, and he hurriedly exclaimed, "Second brother, you're back." "Ah. Yun Luofeng, why are you here as well?" That day, after his battle with Yun Luofeng, Hu Lin had rushed back to Luohua City due to an urgent matter. He had not even gone to watch their subsequent battle. Now that he thought about it, he had left in such a hurry probably because of this unforeseen event. Because of this, he could not understand why Yun Luofeng would stand together with Hu Li. I'll tell you about this later. Hu Li raised the corners of his lips and an enchanting smile appeared on his handsome face. However, his fox-like eyes were still filled with gloominess and murderous intent. "I was the one who told you to get lost. It's better if you get lost yourself." Huyowu's eyes sank and he sneered, "I'm only here to collect the debt, not to settle it with you. Similarly, I'm not such a heartless person. On account of your reunion as father and son today, I'll give you 1 more day. If you don't repay the debt by tomorrow, don't blame me for disregarding our brotherhood. Let's go." He fiercely flung his sleeves and led the group of people towards the back. "Father." Hu Li stared at the old man in front of him. He could not believe his eyes, and his eyes began to sting. In 3 years, his father, who had been in the prime of his life, had become unbearably old and had 1 foot in the grave. However, he was not even 50 years old. One could imagine what kind of life he had led during this period of time. "You unfilial son, who allowed you to come back?" The old man's elderly face sank as he fiercely hit his walking stick and berated him sternly. "Father, how did you become like this?" Hu Li trembled as she reached out to touch her father's head of white hair. In the end, she weakly put her hand down. "Brother, why didn't you tell me about these things?" The family had undergone such a great change, yet he had never known about it. He had been living a carefree life in the academy. Hu Lin looked at the old man next to him and said, "It was father who didn't want me to tell you. He felt that it wasn't easy for you to have the life you have now and didn't want these things to disturb you. That's why I didn't tell you." "Stop." The old man stomped his walking stick again and turned around. His old body seemed a little weak. "There's no need to talk about these things anymore. Bring your friend in and have a seat." The moment the old man turned around, he secretly lifted his sleeve and wiped a tear from the corner of his eye. "Second brother, why is Yun Luofeng here?" Hu Lin frowned. Clearly, he was still unhappy that Yun Luofeng had defeated him. Hu Li was speechless. I lost to her and pledged my loyalty to her for 10 years. This time, I left the academy with her and came back to visit my father. Hu Lin was shocked, but he also understood that this wasn't the time to talk about such things. He looked away from Yun Luofeng and turned to Hu Li. Actually, after you left that year, father also regretted it. He felt that he shouldn't have forced you to do something you didn't like, but you know his personality. He's too stubborn and will never admit his mistakes. In these 3 years, because of Hu Youwu's suppression, father's life has been getting worse with each passing year, but he never allowed me to tell you. He was afraid that it would distract you. He didn't want to be a stumbling block for you. Looking at his stooped father, Hu Li's heart ached even more. Suddenly, he knelt on the ground with a bang and shouted, "Father, I was wrong." Chapter 1294. The old man's body trembled and he slowly turned around. At this moment, he could no longer hold back his tears. Li, it's good that you're back. Hu Li's head was buried in the ground. He had missed too much in the past 3 years. Even his father had become so old and was no longer as spirited as before, but no matter how much he suffered, he had to bear it alone. Even though he knew that he was doing well in the academy, he did not want to disturb him. Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao stood silently behind Hu Li. No one made a sound to disturb him. They knew that at this moment, Hu Li needed to vent the guilt and pain in his heart. Get up. The old man leaned on his walking stick and walked in front of Hu Li to help him up. The father and son put aside their previous enmity and cried in each other's arms. Li, are these two your friends? The old man wiped the tears from the corner of his eyes and looked at Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao. Hu Li nodded. Her name is Yun Luofeng. She comes from the Western Continent Academy like me and is the disciple of the Academy's 5 elders. As for this young master, he is Yun Luofeng's father, Yun Xiao. I lost to Yun Luofeng in a battle and will serve her for 10 years. This time, I left the Western Continent Academy to embark on another journey with her. The old man's eyes showed gratitude. Actually, I already knew that Hu Li does not like to be too restrained. He is unrestrained and loves freedom. The Western Continent Academy is only a place for him to stay. He was afraid that I would not be able to find him, so he stayed in the academy. Now, because of your appearance, he has regained the confidence to chase after his dreams. This old man should thank the two of you. Yun Luofeng did not speak. Her eyes swept over the old man's leg and she asked in a low voice, "Is there a problem with your leg?" The old man smiled bitterly and nodded. Previously, when I was saving someone, I accidentally treated him and he died. This leg was broken by them. Originally, with my medical skills, I had a 50% chance of restoring it, but unfortunately, I lost all my money to the deceased's family and even owed a lot of debts. I can't even afford the medicine, which led to bone necrosis. It's impossible for me to stand up again. Father, I have money. I can buy medicine for you. Hu Li stood up from the ground and took out his spatial ring. He placed all his belongings in the old man's hand. Hurry up and buy the medicine. The old man shook his head. If it was a few days ago when my leg was broken, I would still have a 50% chance. Now, I don't even have a 10% chance. Hu Li's head drooped as he gripped the spatial ring in his hand tightly. His heart wrenched violently. If he had been in Fallen Blossom City during those few days, he would never have let anyone bully his father like that. If he had never left the family, his father would not have encountered such a thing. All of this was his fault. Hu Li hammered his head fiercely, wanting to smash his head with all his might. Little brother. Hu Lin was shocked. He rushed forward and grabbed Hu Li's hand. What are you doing? No one is blaming you. Besides, it was father who told me not to say it. It has nothing to do with you. Let me go. Hu Li struggled out of Hu Lin's grasp. Just as Hu Lin was about to continue grabbing onto Hu Li, a cold voice came from the side. Let him go. If he wants to smash, let him. If he wants to die, I'll send him on his way. Hearing this, Hu Lin turned his head angrily. Yun Luo Feng, what do you mean by that? Chapter 1295. What do I mean? Yun Luofeng's lips curled into a sinister smile. Hu Li knows very well what I mean. At a time like this, instead of thinking about how to help your father, you're torturing yourself first. Your father is already in so much pain, do you want him to suffer even more for you? Hu Li's hand slowly drooped. His handsome face turned increasingly pale and ashamed. Hu Li, I had asked you to follow me not because of your evasive personality. Yun Luofeng's black eyes were domineering and insolent. I lack people who dare to take responsibility for their actions by my side. So, you should be thinking about how to avenge your father, not how to punish yourself. Hu Li smiled bitterly and said, You're right, now is not the time for me to punish myself. I must first deal with the person who hurt my father, then I can continue to apologize to my father. Yun Luofeng's words were indeed a little heartless, but there was nothing wrong with them. They were like a hammer that smashed into Hu Li's heart, calming him down. When he saw the calm and reflective Hu Li, Yun Luofeng shifted his gaze to the old man's crippled right leg. Your leg, it's not that there's no way to treat it. The old man's body stiffened. After a long pause, he shook his head. I'm a doctor myself. I know the injury to my leg very well, there's no way to treat it. If I say that you can be saved, then you can be saved. Yun Luofeng raised his brows. Hu Li, go buy some medicinal herbs for me. All right. Hu Li had unconditional trust in Yun Luofeng. Since he said that his father could be saved, then there must be a way. After a while, Yun Luofeng wrote down the medicinal herbs he needed on a piece of paper and handed it to Hu Li. After receiving the prescription, Hu Li quickly rushed towards the medicine shop in Luohua City. There was a commotion in the medicine shop. Hu Li had just rushed over when he bumped into someone he did not want to see. That person was also shocked when he saw Hu Li. He then laughed icily. Hu Li, my father had just said that you've returned, but I did not believe him. I never thought that you would really return. Could it be that you can no longer stay in the West Continent Academy? So you've returned to Luohua City. Hu Li's expression turned cold. Get lost. Have you grown a temper after staying outside for so long? When you were in Luohua City, you didn't dare to talk to me like this. The young man hugged the woman with both hands and walked over with his belly protruding. His face was pale and his steps were unsteady. It was obvious that he had overindulged in his lust. Even if I can't survive in the Western Continent Academy, I can still kill you with one hand. Hu Li snorted. 3 years ago, I didn't do anything to you because my father didn't allow me to. Later on, I even dared to resist his orders. Could it be that I still don't dare to touch you now? Shockingly, the young man before him was Hu You's eldest son, Hu Tao's elder brother. This fellow had always been against him in Luohua City, but his father did not allow him to stir up trouble outside. Hence, no matter how many times he was provoked, he gritted his teeth and endured it. Now that his father had been harmed so miserably, how could he continue to endure? Hu Li, your father killed someone, and his reputation has already been ruined. You still dare to go out? Aren't you afraid that the family of the deceased will come looking for you? While talking to Hu Li, the young man could not help but reach out and pinch the buttocks of the woman beside him. The woman cried out in pain and looked at the young man shyly. Young master, you're hurting me. Chapter 1296. The young man laughed and laughed vulgarly in the woman's ear. Wait until tonight, I will make you feel even more pain. The woman lowered her head shyly. When the young man did not see her, a trace of disdain flashed across her eyes. Just him. He still wants to make me feel pain. Perhaps even a toothpick would be more powerful than him. if it was not for the fact that Hu Rui was more generous and the fact that the Hu family was also an aristocratic family in Luohua City, she would not even bother to comply with him. When Hu Li saw Hu Rui making such a wretched gesture in front of him, a trace of disgust flashed across his eyes and his voice became colder. "Get lost." When he said this, an imposing aura suddenly burst out. Hu Rui did not know what was going on, but his body suddenly flew out and crashed into the crowd with a bang. Hu Li brushed his sleeves and walked in with large strides. He threw the prescription on the table and said coldly, "Take out these medicinal ingredients." The shopkeeper looked up at him indifferently. "I'm sorry, this shop does not have the medicinal ingredients you want." Hu Li had not returned for 3 years and everyone said that he was worse than a dog. Looking at his poor appearance, he could not afford to buy medicinal ingredients. Moreover, even if he could afford it, in order not to offend the Hu family, he would not sell it to him. "Are you sure you don't have it?" Hu Li narrowed his eyes slightly and threatened coldly. "Go, go, go," the shopkeeper said impatiently. "Hurry up and leave. I already said we don't have these medicinal ingredients." Just as he finished speaking, he felt a chill on his neck, causing him to shiver. His eyes swept down slightly. When he saw the sword on his neck, his face turned pale and his voice trembled. Young Master Hu Li, I was just joking." Hu Li sneered, "Take out the medicinal ingredients or I will kill you immediately." A kind person would be bullied. A kind dog would be ridden by others. Only when one is evil would others fear him. At this moment, Hu Li deeply understood this point. 3 years ago, he was in Luohua City. Even though his father was chased out of the Hu family, his reputation was still flourishing. Who in the entire Luohua City did not give him face? Now that his reputation had fallen, these people turned their backs on him. Then why should he be polite to them? The shopkeeper trembled as he grabbed the medicinal herbs that Hu Li needed from the medicine cabinet. One by one, he wrapped them in yellow paper and carefully handed them to Hu Li. At this moment, his hands were trembling. The medicinal herb you wanted." Hu Li raised her eyebrows and asked, "How much silver?" "No, I don't want silver." How could he still dare to ask Hu Li for money? Being able to stay alive was already good enough. Hu Li looked coldly at the shopkeeper and casually threw down a pool of silver. "I'm not the kind of person who takes things from others without giving them money. I'll give you the silver. In the future, I won't come to your medicine store anymore." With that, Hu Li turned around and left. At this moment, there was a commotion in the crowd. Hu Li had just stepped out of the medicine shop when a group of people surrounded him. Those people were dressed in mourning clothes, and their faces were full of grief. When they saw Hu Li at the door of the medicine shop, their grief turned into anger. "Bastard of the Hu clan, pay with your life. Your father killed my son, I want you to pay with your life." A middle-aged man angrily pounced on Hu Li. His hand was wrapped in a layer of spiritual power, and he wanted to hit the top of Hu Li's head. Before he could reach Hu Li, he was shaken away by the aura of Hu Li's body. Ouch! The middle-aged man fell to the ground and cried bitterly, "This bastard's father killed my son. I want him to pay with his life, but he still wants to hit me. You guys judge, is there still law in this world?" Chapter 1297. Hu Li's eyes became colder and colder as he looked at the middle-aged man who was crying on the ground. During this period of time, everyone in Luohua City knew about the changes that had happened to Hu Li's family. Therefore, when they heard the middle-aged man's words, they could not help but criticize him. "This doctor who is too much. He treated someone to death, and he still has the nerve to call himself a doctor. TSK, it's true that the Hu family is a medical family, but the Hu family has always been controlled by Hu Youwu. I guess Hu Wenwu's medical skills are not good, so the Hu family did not use him." The Hu Wenwu that this man was talking about was Hu Li's father. Hu Li sneered as he looked at the middle-aged man who was crying bitterly. A hint of viciousness flashed in his eyes. He had not had the time to ask who had been killed by his father. Now that he saw this man, he felt that this matter was definitely not that simple. The man in front of him was the person who had almost become his father-in-law. He had been engaged to this man's daughter since he was young. Even though he did not like that woman, he intended to abide by the marriage contract for his father's orders. However, this woman had slept with another man and was even pregnant with a child. She actually wanted him to be the scapegoat. In a fit of anger, he returned the marriage and denied that the child was his. In the end, the child's biological father stood up and acknowledged the child. In desperation, the woman could only marry the child's biological father. Unfortunately, the child's biological father did not cherish her after he got her. He often punched and kicked her and used violence. Originally, the woman wanted to go back to the family to complain, but the man used the child to threaten her. She could only swallow all the bitter consequences. It was not until the woman committed suicide in despair that the matter was revealed. This also caused the crying man in front of him to hate him to the bone. He believed that his daughter's tragic ending was caused by him. Therefore, Huli was very suspicious that this farce of a doctor dying was deliberately set up by this man. "Huli, you brat, you have to pay with your life for my son's death." The middle-aged man stood up again and angrily pounced on Huli. This time, Huli did not resist and was grabbed by the collar. He lowered his eyes and spoke sinisterly into the middle-aged man's ear. "If you don't want people to know, then don't do it. If I find out that you and Huyowu plotted against my father, then I'll make sure your two families turn into hell." The middle-aged man's body trembled as panic flashed across his eyes. It was also at this moment that Huli had already left his hand. Dressed in a peach blossom robe, she quickly floated forward and disappeared from his sight. The man swallowed hard and his face darkened. He secretly gritted his teeth and cursed in his heart, "Huli, you little bastard, you want to go against me? You're still too inexperienced. You killed my daughter, so I won't let you off." Even though the middle-aged man had killed the murderer who had abused his daughter, he still believed that Huli was at fault in this matter. He looked coldly in the direction where Huli had disappeared. After pondering for a while, he walked towards the Hu family, Hu residence. Huyowu sat in the main hall, sipping his tea. At this time, a servant came to report that Ouyang Qianran had come to pay a visit. "Let him in." Huyowu was slightly startled and said. The servant acknowledged the order and retreated. After a while, a middle-aged man in mourning clothes walked in from outside the courtyard. When Ouyang Qianran saw the mourning clothes, he waved his hand and said, "Ouyang Qianran, why did you come dressed like this?" Chapter 1298. Why did you come dressed like this? Huyowu frowned and asked in disdain. Ouyang Qianran chuckled and walked in front of Huyowu. "Master Hu, I came dressed like this because I went to surround Huli." "Oh right, Master Hu, when are we going to attack Huli and his son?" "Ouyang Qianran, do you hate Huli and his son that much?" Huyowu's eyes flickered as he asked with a smile. A vicious light flashed across Ouyang Qianran's eyes when he heard this. "How can I not hate them? If it wasn't for Huli, my daughter would not have died. I will never forget this enmity for the rest of my life." The smile on Huyowu's face deepened. "The person who caused your daughter's death was not Huli. You seem to have forgotten this." Ouyang Qianran immediately became agitated when he heard this. How could it not be him? He was the one who caused my daughter's death. If he had been willing to marry my daughter back then, my daughter would not have married that bastard. He is the main culprit behind my daughter's death. I will never forgive him. At this moment, Ouyang Qianran seemed to have forgotten that it was his daughter who had colluded with someone else and became pregnant with a child. Yet, Huli had to take the blame. If his daughter had not been too debauched, how would she have ended up like this? Based on Hu Li's personality, it was even more impossible for him to help raise someone else's child. However, Ouyang Qianran had never thought about his daughter's mistakes and pushed all the blame onto Hu Li. If Hu Li had not rejected the marriage, his daughter would not have died so tragically. "Oh right, how did your son go?" A light flashed across Hu Li's eyes. "In my opinion, he should be killed to prevent any news from leaking out." Ouyang Qianran's face stiffened and he laughed dryly. "Master Hu, although I have more sons, they are all my flesh and blood. How could I bear to kill him? Furthermore, I have already sent him away. No news will leak out. Don't worry. How can a woman's benevolence achieve great things?" Hu Youwu sneered and looked at Ouyang Qianran with disdain. "Hu family head, I've come here with another request." Ouyang Qianran's eyes flashed. "Even though I've already squeezed Hu Wenwu dry of his wealth, I'm still not satisfied. I want Hu Li to fall into my hands and then bury him with my daughter." "Is it because he doesn't want to marry my daughter? Then I'll let them be the husband and wife underground." Just as Hu Youwu was about to speak, a commotion came from outside the courtyard. His face darkened and he shouted sternly, "Who is it?" "GG." A mouse squeaked and a white figure quickly flew into the distance, disappearing from his line of sight. When he saw the gold-seeking rat in the distance, Hu Youwu's heart finally calmed down. So it's the gold-seeking rat. This spirit beast doesn't pose any threat, so there's no need to fear it. Spirit beasts could only speak the human language when they reached the venerable spirit beast level. A low-level creature like the gold-seeking rat would never be able to become a venerable spiritualist. Why would he need to care about them? "Master Hu, my suggestion just now." Ouyang Qianran hesitated for a moment before he continued to ask. "I agree to your suggestion." Ouyang Qianran stood up and said calmly, "I only want to defeat this father and son trio. As for how to deal with Hu Li, it's up to you." He did not take Hu Li seriously at all. His words had already determined his fate. Chapter 1299. Just as he had said, if Hu Li was really doing well, how could he not have returned for 3 years? It must be because he did not make a name for himself that he did not have the face to return. As for Hu Lin's claim that he had entered the Academy's Heavens list, that was the biggest joke in the world. How could he, Hu Li, enter the Heavens list? Hu Lin must have made it up so that his brother would not be too disgraced. Ouyang Qianran, remember to hide your son well. If I find out that your son ruined my plan, I will definitely kill your entire family. Hu Youwu made a gesture of slitting his throat as a sinister light flashed in his eyes. Ouyang Qianran's heart trembled when he saw Hu Youwu's action. He subconsciously wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. "Master Hu, don't worry. No one knows where I hid my son. It won't be ruined because of him." "I hope so." Hu Youwu sneered and did not waste any more time talking to Ouyang Qianran. He got someone to send him away. In the slums. Inside the house, Hu Lin, who was waiting anxiously, hurried forward to welcome his brother when he saw him return. "Second brother, how was it? Did anyone cause trouble for you?" Hu Li shook his head and handed the medicinal herbs to Yun Luo Feng. He then turned to look at the old man. "Father, tell me, what happened? Did you treat Ouyang Qianran's son?" The old man's body trembled. Under Hu Li's questioning gaze, he nodded helplessly. "It's indeed his son. His son only had a fever. I gave him a normal fever, but who knew that he would die inexplicably?" Hearing this, Hu Lin was furious. It must have been Hu Youwu's doing. He framed father. When Ouyang Qianran's son died, he came looking for me and said that he wanted to lend me money. Father was helpless and could only lend him money. Hu Li did not answer Hu Lin's question. He looked straight at the old man. "Why did you treat Ouyang Qianran's son?" The old man smiled bitterly. "A doctor is benevolent. As a doctor, how can I refuse a patient? But I never thought that this would happen. Father, don't you think that they are not working together? The more Huli thought about it, the more likely it was. There must be some conspiracy behind the two of them getting together. That's impossible. No matter what, Ouyang Qianran wouldn't use his own son's life to exact revenge on us. The old man shook his head. His son is already dead. This can't be done by him. It must be Hu Youwu. Huli smiled coldly. In her heart, she had already determined that this matter had something to do with Ouyang Qianran. Right at this moment, a gold-seeking rat scuttled in from outside the door. Then, under everyone's gaze, it gradually turned into a young man in white. Everyone in the room was scared silly as they looked at the young man who had appeared out of thin air. Milk Tea didn't look at anyone else as she reported to Yun Luofeng, "Master, I followed your orders and followed Hu Youwu. Guess what I heard in the end?" Milk Tea looked a little excited. It turns out that the patient who was killed didn't die. Instead, he was moved out. What? The old man and Hu Lin were shocked at the same time. They didn't have time to be surprised by Milk Tea's identity. Impossible. The old man shook his head. I clearly sensed that the little boy was no longer breathing. How could he not be dead? Chapter 1300. That was impossible. Huli sneered, "Father, don't forget that Hu Youwu also has medical skills and inherited most of the Hu family's ancient books. He must have a way to make people not notice that the little guy is not dead." The old man's body trembled and he fell into a chair. In addition to practicing medicine for the sake of the people, he also pitied the child who was still suffering from a high fever. Because he felt guilty towards the Ouyang family, he did not even accept the consultation fee. Who knew that his good intentions would be exchanged for a wolf's ambition? "Father, I've already said that this matter has something to do with Ouyang Qianran, but you didn't believe me." Huli was a little angry. At the thought of Ouyang Qianran and Hu Youwu joining forces to murder his father, his heart was filled with monstrous anger and he could not wait to rush over and kill all of them. However, Huli, who understood his father, knew that his father valued his reputation very much. How could he ruin his father's reputation because of his own selfishness? "Brother, let's go find those people and settle the score." Hu Lin gritted his teeth, his eyes bursting with hatred. "No." Huli had already calmed down. "I have to find Ouyang Qianran's son first to prove father's innocence. I can't let father's reputation be destroyed and I won't let evil people get away with it." Yun Luofeng, who had been silent since just now, said after hearing Hu Li's words, "I'll send someone to find him for you." "Thank you." Hu Li's eyes were filled with gratitude. Actually, Yun Luofeng could have ignored this matter. But she chose to find someone for him. He could not help but be moved by this. Yun Luofeng glanced at Hu Li. "Don't forget, you have to leave this place with me. I don't want to waste too much time here, so I'll send someone to find someone for you. Otherwise, with your own strength, I'm afraid it will take a long time." "Then how do you plan to find someone?" Hu Li asked aloud. Yun Luofeng pondered for a moment, then looked up at the old man. "Do you have anything that Ouyang Qianran's son used?" "Yes." The old man trembled as he walked to the side, took out a piece of white cloth, and then walked towards Yun Luofeng. "This is what Ouyang Qianran's son used to wipe his mouth when he was coughing. He left it with me at the time. I don't know if it's useful." "Yes, as long as it's something he used, it's useful." Yun Luofeng took the white cloth and handed it to the Milk Tea. "Remember this smell, then go find Ouyang Qianran's son." Milk Tea's nose had always been very sensitive. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been called the gold-seeking mouse. In this world, there was nothing the gold-seeking mice couldn't find. Milk Tea sniffed the white cloth and memorized the smell in her heart. She vowed solemnly, "Master, wait for me here. I will find the person for you soon." After saying this, Milk Tea quickly walked out of the door and disappeared from everyone's sight in the blink of an eye. Yun Luofeng picked up the herbs in his hands and turned to Huli. Do you know how to brew medicine? Huli was stunned for a moment before he nodded and said, yes. Boil these herbs into soup and let your father drink it. Then, apply the medicinal dregs on his leg. In less than 3 days, he will recover. Huli was stunned. He looked at Yun Luofeng in disbelief and asked in a doubtful voice, you're saying that these herbs can cure my father's leg? He knew his father's medical skills better than anyone else, but an illness that even his father could not cure, could Yun Luofeng do it? If you believe me, then do it. If you don't believe me, then pretend that I didn't say anything. Yun Luofeng raised an eyebrow and said calmly. Chapter 1301. Huli looked at Yun Luofeng hesitantly, but in the end, he still accepted the medicinal ingredients. He turned his head and looked at the old man standing in front of him, saying, Father, wait here for me for a moment. I'll go brew the medicine. He then turned around and left. You too, the old man's gaze fell upon Yun Luofeng and Huli. If you don't mind, you can rest here tonight. Yun Luofeng nodded gently. For cultivators, even a sleepless night would not hinder them. The next day. Dawn. A clamor could be heard coming from outside the slums. The man was arrogant and domineering. Hu Wenwu, Huli, how's the preparation of your money? If you still can't repay the debt, you can only use your lives as compensation. Creak. The dilapidated old wooden door was pushed open by an old hand. Immediately, the old man walked out with the help of the Huli brothers. The walking stick in his hand fell heavily on the ground, like a hammer to the hearts of the crowd. Hu Yowu, you know very well what you've done. The old man's voice was hoarse and dry, extremely unpleasant to the ear. His dignified eyes stared coldly at the man standing in front of him and his elderly face was cold and detached. Hu Yowu burst into laughter. What have I done? Why didn't I know? On the other hand, everyone in Luohua Adult City knows that you've treated a patient to death. Your reputation has been ruined and no one can help you. As soon as he finished speaking, Hu Yowu waved his hand and a piece of paper appeared in his hand. The bright red handprint was clearly visible on this piece of paper. You've borrowed a total of 10 million taels of silver from me. I wonder when you'll be able to return this money to me. The corners of his lips curled into a sarcastic angle as he stared at Hu Wenwu with disdain. Hu Wenwu, when you were chased out of the Hu family, you should have kept your place and lived a peaceful life. However, you couldn't let go of your reputation and continued to treat patients. Aren't you forcing me to take action? You've single-handedly caused your current situation and it has nothing to do with anyone else. The old man pointed angrily at his younger brother as his elderly body trembled. When he had found out the truth yesterday and recalled Hu Yowu's face, he felt the urge to give him a tight slap. Hua! At this moment, a strong gust of wind blew past. Hu Yowu did not hold on to the paper tightly and it was swept into the void by the wind. Hu Yowu was greatly alarmed. Just as he was about to leap up and grab the promissory note suddenly flew forward and landed in a large hand. The man's black robe fluttered in the wind, and his face was cold and expressionless. His black eyes were incomparably deep, so dark that it was impossible to see through his inner emotions. After snatching the IOU, the man handed it to the white-clothed girl beside him. Then, the white-clothed girl raised her hand and tore it. The promissory note immediately turned into pieces in her hand and fluttered down. Since you said that Hu Wenwu owes you a debt, you should take out the promissory note. If you don't even have a promissory note, what right do you have to demand for a debt? The young girl raised her eyebrows slightly. Her demonic black eyes stared at the pale Hu Yowu as she asked casually. At that moment, there were already many people on the street. When they heard Yun Luofeng's words, they were instantly dumbfounded. IOU? Didn't she just tear it apart? She actually dared to ask for an IOU. Could she not be so shameless? Hu Yowu gritted his teeth. Miss, do you think that I won't be able to do anything to this father and son trio just because you've torn up my promissory note? When the time comes, I'll stick the promissory note together, Anne. Chapter 1302. Oh. The girl raised her eyebrows, and the smile in her eyes deepened. Is that so? How about this? Whoosh. In the air, the pieces of paper that had just fallen suddenly burst into flames. Under the flames, the lone note was burned to ashes. Hu Yowu felt as if he had been punched in the heart, causing his anger to rise spontaneously. He glared at Yun Luofeng with eyes full of murderous intent. Miss, you better not meddle in other people's business. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. Yun Luofeng's body leaned lazily on the man's body. He looked relaxed and content, and his smile was extremely beautiful. I'm sorry, I'm really going to meddle in this matter. It's a fact that Hu Wenwu owes me money. Everyone in Luohua City can testify. Hu Yowu's eyes darkened, and he said coldly, he won't go back on his word. Yun Luofeng's lips curled up. Then I'd like to ask, how did he owe you money? Humph, that goes without saying. It's because he treated a patient to death that caused the patient to demand compensation. He had no choice but to borrow money from me. Seeing that he's my elder brother, I lent him 10 million taels of silver. Hu Yowu snorted. He can forget about reneging on this debt. If. Yun Luofeng narrowed his eyes. The patient he treated didn't die. The patient didn't die. The crowd was in an uproar. They looked at Yun Luofeng as if they were looking at an idiot. Even Hu Wenwu himself had concluded that the child of the Ouyang family couldn't be saved. Then how could he not die? At this moment, no one realized that after Yun Luofeng finished speaking, a flash of panic flashed in Hu Yowu's eyes. He suppressed the nervousness in his heart and took a deep breath. What nonsense are you talking about? He's clearly dead. Hu Wenwu can prove it himself. Could it be that you want to say that the Ouyang family deliberately blackmailed you? With this, he had already cleared his name. Even if the matter failed in the end, it was Ouyang Qinran's problem. It had nothing to do with him. It's about time. Yun Luofeng's gaze drifted to a place not far away. He should be back. Early this morning, Milk Tea had used her soul to inform him that she had found the young master of the Ouyang clan. She was currently rushing over and was about to enter Luohua City. Huli, Yun Luofeng turned towards Huli, bring Ouyang Qianran to me. Next, I'm going to show everyone a good show. Huli understood what Bai Yun Luofeng wanted to do. He nodded and quickly headed towards the east side of the street. Not long after, Ouyang Qianran was carried in his hands, and he strode over. Huli, you little bastard, your father killed my son, and you still dare to attack me. You will definitely die a horrible death. Shut up. Huli punched Ouyang Qianran in the eye. In an instant, one of his eyes turned jet black. He glared angrily at Huli as if he wanted to dismember him. When she arrived in front of Yun Luofeng, Huli threw him to the ground. A cold light flashed in her pair of fox eyes, her face expressionless. Ouyang Qianran. Yun Luofeng stood on his tiptoes and stroked his chin with his fingers. He looked down at him with a smile. I wonder if you'd like to watch a good show. Ouyang Qianran crawled up from the ground angrily. Who do you think you are? How dare you speak to me like that? Hu Li's eyes turned cold. Just as he was about to attack Ouyang Qianran again, a black figure had already flashed in front of him like a gust of wind. The figure raised its leg and sent him flying with a kick. Chapter 1303. In that instant, Ouyang Qinran's body flew tens of meters away. Under everyone's gaze, he landed heavily on the ground. Everyone was stunned, they stared in shock at the cold and handsome man and could not help but gulp. Although the Ouyang family was not as powerful as the Hu family, Ouyang Qianran was not weak. However, this man did not use much strength to kick him so far away. Especially, Ouyang Qianran had suffered serious injuries from this kick. He spat out blood and almost spat out all his organs. He's almost here. Yun Luofeng raised the corners of his lips, his evil eyes filled with a cold light. Ouyang Qianran, I wonder if you still want to see your youngest son. Ouyang Qianran's body trembled, his face instantly turning pale. What do you mean? I don't understand. It's okay if you don't understand now. You'll understand soon enough. Just as Ouyang Qianran was still confused, the young man's voice suddenly rang out from behind him, Master, I've found the person you wanted me to find. Hearing this clear voice, everyone on the street turned to look at the young man. The young man's figure was thin and his white robe covered his thin body. His handsome and fair face was still young and inexperienced, but his bright smile made his entire body look like it was filled with sunshine. But, what caught everyone's attention was the little fatty in the young man's hand. The little fatty's mouth was dripping with saliva and he looked stupid. When he saw Ouyang Qianran lying on the ground, he burst into tears. Father! Ouyang Qianran's expression completely changed. His eyes were filled with fear and his body could not help but tremble violently. The little fatty's cry was like a stone that had been dropped into a calm lake, causing a huge uproar. Isn't that Ouyang Qianran's dead son? Why isn't he dead? That's not right, this kid looks a little stupid. He's not as quick-witted as he used to be. Back then, because this kid was already dead, Ouyang Qianran asked Hu Wenwu for compensation and broke his leg. Now, who can tell me what happened? Ouyang Qianran's eyes had already turned from the initial fear to despair. He had clearly hidden his son very well, so how could he have been found? At the same time, Hu Youwu's expression was also very ugly. He fiercely glared at Ouyang Qianran as a trace of anger flashed across his eyes. He had long since told him to get rid of this brat to avoid trouble, but Ouyang Qianran did not have the heart to do so. Otherwise, how could such a scene occur? Was this the good show that the woman in white mentioned? I believe that all of you have seen it for yourselves. Hu Li was the first to react. He sneered, Ouyang Qianran's son is not dead at all. He had framed my father. How could he use such a despicable method? He's worse than a beast. At this moment, the noisy crowd once again erupted into an even more intense discussion. The shock in everyone's eyes was replaced by mockery, and countless accusations and curses flew towards Ouyang Qianran. Ouyang Qianran is truly sinister. His son is not dead at all, yet he actually said that his son is already dead. This is clearly a deliberate attempt to extort Doctor Who. Chapter 1304. I knew it, based on Doctor Who's medical skills, he wouldn't have caused death. So it was all a frame-up. Now that we have witness and material evidence, let's see what else he has to say. Hold on, even if Ouyang Qianran's son didn't die, why did he die at that time? Aside from the people who were crazily cursing Ouyang Qianran, there were naturally some clear-headed people in the crowd. That person interjected and caused the boiling crowd to quieten down. Yun Luofeng's lips curled into a faint smile. There's a type of pill that can cause a person to appear to be in a state of suspended animation. However, this pill also has side effects, and that is, after taking this pill, the person will become mentally retarded. You're talking nonsense. Ouyang Qianran rose angrily and glared fiercely at Yun Luofeng. That son's high fever is a fact, it wasn't because of that pill that caused him to become mentally retarded. His brain was burnt. Ouyang Qianran's heart clenched fiercely at the thought of this. He had used his son's high fever to frame Hu Wenwu, but because of this, his illness had been delayed and his son had become mentally retarded. However, at this moment, Ouyang Qianran, who knew that he had been exposed, did not continue to deny everything. Instead, he had admitted it. So what if he hated the Hu father and son? If it wasn't for them, how could his daughter have died? It was only right for him to seek revenge on them. There's a type of medicinal herb in this pill, it's called the mind-lost grass. As long as you're a doctor, you'll understand the effects of the mind-lost grass. Yun Luofeng raised his brows as he stared at Ouyang Qianran, the corners of his lips curled into a shallow angle. Mind-lost grass. Ouyang Qianran shook his head. Impossible, that pill can't possibly have the mind-lost grass. I don't believe it, I definitely won't believe it. Master. Milk Tea walked to Yun Luofeng's side, extended her hand and said, I found this in the Ouyang boy's residence. After saying this, he took out a pill and handed it to Yun Luofeng. Yun Luofeng was just about to reach out to take the pill when Yun Xiao pressed down on his hand. He tore a piece of his sleeve and handed it to her. Don't dirty your hands. Yun Luofeng gave a slight smile. She grabbed the rag that Yun Xiao handed to her and used it to wrap the herbs. After consuming the pseudo-death medicine, all you need to do is use your inner force to force the pill out, and you'll be able to wake up. I bet you didn't expect that your son would think it was something good and keep it. Yun Luofeng handed the pill to Hu Wenwu. Hu Wenwu was stunned. He took the pill and sniffed it gently. His expression changed suddenly. This pill does contain the mind-lost grass. If Yun Luofeng had said this, Ouyang Qianran would not have believed him. But the person in front of him was the highly respected Hu Wenwu. No matter how much he hated the Hu father and son, he had to admit Hu Wenwu's character. This fellow had always disdained to lie. Since he said that the pill contained the mind-lost grass, then it must be true. Thinking of this, Ouyang Qianran felt his heart tremble, and his mind went blank. My son's stupidity is my fault. No. Hu Youwu was also the cause of all this. Ouyang Qianran clenched his fists tightly and gritted his teeth as he spat out this word. Before he could finish speaking, a flying knife pierced Ouyang Qianran's throat, causing his body to tremble and his eyes to widen in disbelief. Chapter 1305. You old bastard. Hu Youwu rushed in front of Ouyang Qianran and fiercely kicked his body to the ground. He then pulled out the throwing knife from his neck. You actually dared to frame my elder brother. This is truly unforgivable. Today, I will kill you to avenge my elder brother. Stop. Hu Li's expression changed greatly. Ouyang Qianran was the only person who could accuse Hu Youwu, but now, he had been killed by Hu Youwu in front of him. Hu Youwu, stop right now. Hu Li quickly rushed in front of Hu Youwu and raised his hand. Just as Hu Youwu was about to make another move, he quickly snatched Ouyang Qianran over. Unfortunately, Ouyang Qianran was already dead. Hu Youwu, what are you doing? Hu Li's heart was filled with anger as he stared coldly at Hu Youwu. Hu Youwu chuckled, of course I'm avenging you. This bastard actually dared to frame you. Doesn't that mean he doesn't respect the Hu family? How can I allow these beasts to behave like this? Hu Li smiled coldly, you want to silence us. A cold light flashed in Hu Youwu's eyes and he put on a fake smile. What are you saying? I'm your second uncle after all. I'm definitely siding with my family. Otherwise, when your father was being forced, I wouldn't have lent him alone. Where else can you find a good person like me? Hu Li clenched his fists tightly and cracked them. His expression was incomparably gloomy and the murderous intent on his body grew stronger. Yun Luofeng did not make a move. After all, he had done enough for Hu Li. Next, he would have to rely on himself. Hu Youwu, I'll get the evidence. Hu Li scoffed, you can get lost now. A dog that bites Lu Dongbin, you don't know how to appreciate my kindness. Hu Youwu sneered and waved his hand, let's go. When he finished speaking, he led a group of people from the Hu clan away in a grandiose manner, leaving behind Hu Li, who was trembling in anger. Actually, when Hu Youwu had tried to assassinate Ouyang Qianran, Yun Luofeng and Yun Shao could have stopped him. However, they had not done so. So what if they had stopped him? As long as Hu Youwu did not admit to it, there would be no evidence to prove that Ouyang Qianran had been ordered by him. Therefore, in the end, Yun Luofeng and Yun Shao didn't move. Of course, they had another more important reason. There seemed to be a familiar aura on Hu Youwu. Yun Shao, do you feel it? Yun Luofeng's eyes darkened as he asked. Yun Zhao's expression was cold and indifferent as his deep voice slowly rang out, Bai Su. That's right. Hu Youwu did have Bai Su's aura on him. In other words, Bai Su had interacted with him before. Yesterday, when Xiao Bai went to the Hu residence, she didn't notice Bai Su's presence. We only noticed Hu Youwu's aura today, which means that they met last night. As he grew stronger, his sense of smell became more and more obvious. For experts, judging a person did not depend on their appearance, but on their aura. This was also the reason why disguising techniques could not fool experts. It looks like we need to stay here for a while. Yun Shao raised her hand to protect Yun Luofeng in her embrace. Her lowered eyes were filled with warmth. Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows and smiled. You're planning to wait for Bai Su to appear? That's right, he's too dangerous. If I don't get rid of him, I won't be at ease with your safety. Chapter 1306. Hu Mansion. Hu Youwu's figure cut a sorry figure as he hurriedly rushed in. He ran into the main hall and took the teacup from a servant girl. He took a big gulp of tea and threw the teacup onto the ground. This woman has caused my plan to fail. I won't let her get away with it. A cold light flashed across his eyes as he spoke sinisterly. At that moment, a demonic voice suddenly rang out from the beam of the room, causing his expression to change drastically. I told you last night that you would fail. The man's voice was filled with insufferably arrogant, demonic and awe-inspiring. His handsome face curled into a small smile. Then, he leapt forward and stood in front of Hu Youwu. If you listen to my orders, I can help you. Hu Youwu's eyes darkened. He looked at the man standing in front of him and gritted his teeth. How do you want to help me, and why do you want to help me? He never believed that such a powerful man would help him for no reason. Not only was the man before him powerful, even his features were so perfect that they could turn all living things upside down. How could such a handsome and demonic man not move the hearts of all the women in the world? However, this man's aura was too frightening, so much so that no one could get close to him. The reason why I'm helping you is very simple. The man narrowed his eyes and a demonic smile appeared on the corners of his lips. I want Yun Luofeng. All these years, the Ghost Emperor had never given up on hunting him down. Since that was the case, he must snatch Yun Luofeng away and let him experience the pain of wishing he were dead. Also, a cold light flashed across the man's eyes. I heard that the Hu family has a magic weapon that can conceal one's aura. After I've helped you, I hope that you can give me that magic weapon. Hu Youwu was stunned. This magic weapon is not a problem, but, if you want Yun Luofeng, why don't you show yourself? The man's eyes swept towards Hu Youwu. This glance caused him to stop breathing. He felt as if his heart was being squeezed by a hand and it was so painful that it was difficult for him to breathe. You only need to complete the task that I've given you. Otherwise, you can lose your life here right now. Hu Youwu gritted his teeth. I will mobilize all the forces of the Hu family to deal with those people. After saying that, Hu Youwu hurriedly walked out of the hole. He did not even have the courage to look back at the devilish man. Master. It was unknown when the gorgeous woman had appeared beside Bai Su. She lowered her eyes slightly and said, the Hu family's strength is not Yun Zhao's match. I know. Bai Su smiled devilishly. I don't intend to rely on these people to deal with Yun Shao, I'm only trying to give them some trouble. Not to mention I came to the Hu clan for the sake of that magic treasure. As for the life and death of the Hu clan members, what does that have to do with me? More importantly, when he stepped into the Hu family, he had already sensed Yun Zhao's existence. If he left Luohua City now, he would definitely be noticed by Yun Shao. That was why he had asked Hu Youwu to bring people to cause trouble for them. Perhaps, it would also give him a chance to leave. Have you found the item? Bai Su's eyes darkened as he asked. The gorgeous woman nodded. Master, this jade pendant is what you need. Bai Su raised his brows slightly. He turned to look at the jade pendant in the gorgeous woman's hand and slowly took it. At that moment, his body shrank with a bang. The large silver robe that covered his small body did not seem to fit him at all. Chapter 1307. At this moment, Bai Su had turned back into a 5 or 6-year-old boy. He looked like he was carved from jade and was very cute. His big bright eyes contained an evil smile and the slight curve of his lips revealed an awe-inspiring murderous intent. Back then, I was injured by Yun Shao, causing my power to disappear. In order to recover, I could only become a child. Even now, I can only recover to my peak state for an hour at most. After an hour, he would become a boy again. My lord, your injury will recover very soon. The beautiful woman walked to Bai Su's side, her eyes filled with admiration. This was the man she had been waiting for her entire life. For him, she was willing to let go of everything. Let's go. After getting what he wanted, Bai Su slowly walked out of the hall and disappeared without looking back. In Luohua City, the original silence was broken by the clamor of the Hu family. Hu Youwu led all the experts of the Hu family and aggressively killed their way into the slums, so much so that it attracted the attention of many onlookers. After a while, he had already walked to Hu Wenwu's door and kicked it open with a bang. Hu Wenwu, get out here right now. Hu Youwu's eyes were fierce as he shouted angrily. Beside him, there was a group of old men. Obviously, these old men were the elders of the Hu family. When he saw Hu Wenwu walk out of the door with the help of a walking stick, Hu Youwu sneered, Hu Wenwu, when you betrayed the Hu family, you were not qualified to continue practicing medicine. However, you have forgotten the family rules. Now, I have brought the elders of the family to seek justice. When Hu Li heard this, his fox-like eyes surged with anger. Hu Youwu, when did my father betray the family? He was obviously driven out by the narrow-minded you. Moreover, the Hu family did not say that my father is not allowed to continue saving people. I am the master of the Hu family. If I say that there is such a rule, then there is. Once your father leaves the family, he is not allowed to continue practicing medicine. Now that he has violated the rules, I naturally have the right to execute him. Hu Li clenched his fists tightly as the veins on his forehead bulged. A murderous intent flashed in his eyes, causing his entire body to show its imposing manner. Hu Youwu, what right do you have to execute my father? Hu Lin also stood up and asked angrily. Hu Youwu said coldly, not only your father, but also you two brothers. All of you deserve to die. Men, arrest these people for me. My brother is a member of the Western Continent Academy's Heaven ranking. Hu Lin's face changed greatly as he anxiously shouted. The strength of the Hu clan elder was also not bad. No matter how talented his younger brother was, how could he fight with so many old fellows? Therefore, Hu Lin hurriedly mentioned the Western Continent Academy. Heaven list. The Hu clan elder laughed mockingly, his face full of disdain. If he could get onto the heaven roll, wouldn't it be too easy? Moreover, if he really had this kind of ability, his father would have announced it a long time ago. Why would he be silently bullied? Hu Lin, do you take our Hu family for fools? Who would believe your words? Hu Lin's face turned pale as he glared fiercely at the people surrounding them. Hu Li, suddenly, a demonic voice rang out from behind him. When Hu Li turned his head to look, he saw the young girl with her arms crossed over her chest, leaning lazily against the door railing. The corners of her lips curled into a smile as she stared at Hu Li with a smile. If you need help, let me know. Chapter 1308. Hu Li laughed arrogantly. I alone am enough to deal with these people. Oh right, where is Sir Yun Shao? Yun Luofeng paused and said, he has something to do and has gone out for a while. Hu Li, finish this quickly. All right. Hu Li faced the enemy in front of him. The anger in his eyes gradually faded and his fox-like eyes were filled with confidence. Hu Li, let's see if you can still say such arrogant words after this. Hu Youwu laughed out loud and commanded everyone to charge at Hu Li. Yun Luofeng did not look at the battle before her. Her gaze was fixed on the azure sky in front of her and a sense of worry appeared in her black eyes. Yun Shao, no matter what, you must return safely. At the city gate. Bai Su looked at the city gate in front of him and a light flashed in his demonic eyes. Jin Yu, we will be able to leave soon. Hu Li alone might not be able to stop the Hu family, so Yun Luofeng would definitely stay behind to help them. Based on Yun Zhao's personality, how could he be at ease leaving Yun Luofeng alone? Therefore, he would stay by Yun Luofeng's side to accompany her at times like this. As for what Bai Su had said to Hu Youwu previously, they were all half-truths. He knew that the Hu family's power would not be able to shake Xu Yunshao. Hence, he did not stay in Luohua City for long. To avoid being discovered by that man. Now that his injuries had not recovered, he had to walk around Yunshao. Once he recovered to his peak strength, it would be time for him to fight Yunshao to the death. But just as Bai Su was about to step out of the city gates, a black-robed man appeared in his line of sight. A light breeze blew and his black robes fluttered, accentuating the man's grim features. His deep black eyes were filled with murderous intent. Bai Su stopped in his tracks. As their eyes met, a dense aura surged from both of them, causing the surrounding wind to blow and dust to fill the air. Yun Shao. An evil light flashed in Bai Su's eyes as he stared coldly at the man standing in front of him. You didn't stay by Yun Luofeng's side. The man's voice was as cold and hoarse as ever, but it contained his confidence in the young girl. Those people are no match for her. He believed in Yun Luofeng. Even if Yun Luofeng had not broken through to Holy King, she believed that those people would not be able to touch her. Bai Su smiled. Yun Shao, looks like I've underestimated all of you. Unfortunately, do you think that you can stop me with your strength? If I want to leave, no one can stop me. Yun Shao stared at Bai Su expressionlessly. You want to rely on this woman beside you to bring you away. All these years, the reason why Bai Su had been able to escape time and time again was because of this woman beside him. Otherwise, Bai Su would have already died in his hands. Master. Jin Yu's face darkened slightly with vigilance. Don't worry. I will take you away even if I have to risk my life. Hua. As soon as he finished speaking, the man at the city gates suddenly moved. His speed was so fast that he floated like a gust of black wind. In the blink of an eye, he was already in front of Jin Yu. Boom! Before Jin Yu could react, she was hit by a force. Her body flew out and fell to the ground, spitting out a mouthful of blood. Master, let's go! Jin Yu shouted anxiously. Her beautiful eyes were filled with eagerness. Yun Shao, Bai Su laughed icily. Don't you think it's a little ungentlemanly for you to attack a woman? Chapter 1309. Yun Shao retracted his hand and his handsome face remained expressionless. His voice was low and hoarse and his eyes were extremely cold. If I let you escape, you will hurt Feng. Anyone who hurts Feng will be my enemy. Grace? That kind of thing was never something he could have. He only cared about Yun Luo Feng in this life. Suddenly, the aura from Yun Zhao's body surged out and instantly attacked the peerless beauty on the ground. Under this aura, Jin Yu could not move at all. Her beautiful eyes flashed with panic and her face turned pale. Bang! A white robe swept across and blocked in front of Jin Yu. She used all her strength to block the attack. Under this attack, Bai Su took 2 steps back. A trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth as he looked up at Yun Xiao. The white silver robe fluttered slightly, swaying in front of Jin Yu's eyes, causing her heart to tremble fiercely. She was only the Lord's maid. It was her honor to serve the Lord, but the Lord protected her. My lord, don't worry about me. With your current strength, you can't defeat the Ghost Emperor. Leave quickly. Shut up. Bai Su wiped the blood from the corner of his lips, then he lowered his eyes and roared. Shortly after, he raised his head and looked at the Ghost Emperor with a cold smile. Ghost Emperor, even if I, Bai Su, have to sacrifice 1,000 years of my life, I won't let you stay with Yun Luo Feng so easily. Yun Zhao's cold eyes stared deeply at Bai Su. He walked towards Bai Su expressionlessly and a murderous aura burst from his body. Bai Su fiercely bit his finger, causing fresh red blood to seep out from his finger. His smile was filled with an evil aura and an insufferably arrogant aura. Yun Xiao, you've been following me for so many years. You should have discovered my identity by now. He looked at Yun Xiao who was walking towards him and continued, in fact, I'm not the young master of the Bai family. I'm the one who founded the Bai family. Everyone in the Roaring Dragon mainland knew that the young master of the Bai family had great authority in the Bai family. Even the master of the Bai family was extremely obedient to him. However, everyone thought that it was because of his extraordinary talent that everyone in the Bai family obeyed him. However, they had no idea that the young master of the Bai family was the one who founded the Bai family. Yun Xiao stopped. Even though he already knew everything, it was a completely different feeling from hearing it from Bai Su's own mouth. I've lived for too long, so long that I don't even know how long I've lived. Originally, I was not from the Roaring Dragon continent. It was an accident that caused me to fall into the Roaring Dragon continent and my strength was severely damaged. In order to live a peaceful life in the Roaring Dragon continent, I founded the Bai family. This was also the reason why the young master of the Bai clan acted mysteriously, and why every young master was named Bai Su. This time, in order to deal with you, I'm willing to pay the price of 1,000 years of my life. I'll let you leave Yun Luo Feng forever. Bai Su's lifespan was very long, so long that he didn't know how many more years he had left. However, this did not mean that he would never die. If he lost 1,000 years of his lifespan, he wouldn't be able to bear it either. Therefore, hearing this, Jin Yu's heart suddenly trembled and she said anxiously, My lord, you must not use this method, otherwise. Bai Su didn't seem to hear Jin Yu's words. He muttered something and a drop of blood essence flew out from his fingertip and charged straight towards Yun Xiao. Chapter 13:10. Yun Xiao furrowed his brows and moved sideways to evade the drop of blood. Who would have guessed that the drop of blood which had been enveloped by energy would suddenly return and enter Yun Xiao's heart with a swoosh? Yun Xiao, there's no point in hiding, My essence blood will follow you until it enters your body. Bai Su's lips curled into an evil angle as he stared disdainfully at Yun Xiao. Furthermore, as long as my blood is in your body, you will never be able to unite with Yun Luo Feng. Of course, there's only one way to break this. That is, you must find another woman. In this way, Yun Luo Feng will never accept you again. Indeed. Bai Su understands Yun Luo Feng very well. As long as Yun Xiao does anything to let her down, she will leave him forever. Yun Zhao's expression was icy cold and the murderous intent in his eyes grew even stronger. With a loud bang, he raised a powerful energy and fiercely struck Bai Su's chest. Pfft! Bai Su spat out a mouthful of blood and he stared disdainfully at Yun Xiao. Yun Xiao, from today onwards, you can't touch Yun Luofeng again. Otherwise, you will suffer unbearable pain. However, I can give you a suggestion. Find another woman and unite with her. That will remove the blood curse I've placed on you. As long as Yun Luofeng doesn't find out, he will never leave you. Boom! Yun Xiao raised his hand once again and the energy continued to strike Bai Su's body. In that instant, Bai Su felt as if his body had been smashed into pieces and the pain was unbearable. If he could recover his former powers, he would not have been suppressed by Yun Xiao like this. Unfortunately, his powers had recovered too slowly and he was unable to defeat Yun Xiao. Your schemes. Yun Xiao raised his eyes and said grimly, will never succeed. I will never do anything to let her down. Bai Su replied with disdain, even if you can never touch her again. As long as this blood curse exists, every time you touch her, your heart will be in unbearable pain. Can you endure this kind of torture? For her, I'm not afraid of the 18 levels of hell, what more a blood curse? Yun Zhao's expression grew even colder and the cold from his body grew even more intense. Just as he was about to attack Bai Su again, his heart twitched violently and he clutched it tightly. Do you feel this pain? Bai Su slowly stood up from the ground. Even if she misses you, your heart will still ache. Hearing this, Yun Zhao's lips curled into a faint smile. This is not bad. Bai Su was shocked as she looked at Yun Xiao in astonishment. Yun Zhao's smile was filled with warmth as she clutched her heart tightly. If I'm not by her side in the future, then I can feel her longing. Wasn't this a good thing? Yun Xiao, are you really not going to find another woman to break the blood curse? Bai Su's face darkened. Yun Xiao raised her head and the smile on her lips disappeared. Her face was cold and expressionless. Other than her, I won't touch anyone else. Bai Su glanced at Yun Xiao one last time before raising her hand to help Jinyu up. Her eyes sank as she said, let's go. With that, he quickly turned around and fled out of the city gate. Yun Zhao's eyes turned cold as he gathered all his energy on his body. With a loud bang, he chased after the two people who were fleeing for their lives. Boom! This energy hit Bai Su's body, causing him to stagger violently and almost fall from the sky. Perhaps Yun Xiao had used too much energy this time, causing a hole to appear on Bai Su's back. Blood filled the air and dyed his silver robes red. Chapter 13:11. Bai Su did not even dare to stop. Enduring the pain, he ran away. Yun Xiao wanted to chase after him, but at this moment, he felt another sharp pain in his heart, forcing him to stop. Master! A gray figure descended from the sky and landed beside Yun Xiao. Do you want me to chase after him? No need. Yun Xiao frowned. Even if Bai Su is seriously injured, you're no match for him. Yun Xiao clutched his chest tightly. A blood curse that consumed 1,000 years of his lifespan? If it were not for the blood curse, Bai Su would have died today. Don't let Feng know about this. Yun Xiao thought for a moment before he instructed. Lin Qiong was startled and carefully suggested, Master, why don't you listen to Bai Su's suggestion and find a woman? Just don't let Madam know. Yun Zhao's cold eyes swept over Lin Qiong. His gaze made Lin Qiong's heart turn cold. It was as if he had fallen into an ice cellar, so cold that he shivered all over. Go back and receive your punishment. The man's voice was cold and merciless. Perhaps no one could move him except for Yun Luofeng. Lin Qiong bowed with a pale face. Yes, master. After throwing down these words, Yun Xiao turned around and left. The hand that was tightly clutching his chest tightened slightly. Slap. Lin Cheong slapped herself in the face. It's all my fault. I've offended Master again. A few years ago, Master threw me into prison for punishment because I provided Master with erotic pictures. Now that I've finally been released, I've been forced to live a life of darkness again because of my mouth. Master was so infatuated with Madam. Perhaps, even if he died, he would not betray Madam. In the slums, countless people had gathered on the street. They were pointing at the two parties who were fighting and discussing. With a bang, Huli took 2 steps back. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and looked up at the group of people in front of him. Holy King! These people were also shocked by the strength that Huli had displayed. They had not expected that Huli had really broken through to become a holy king. Unfortunately, so what? Even if he was a saint king, he was only one person, while they were a group. How could they possibly be afraid of him alone? Thinking of this person, the elders once again launched an attack on Huli, showing no mercy. Yun Luofeng. Hu Lin was a little anxious. He looked at Yun Luofeng and begged, "Can you help my brother?" Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows. Without waiting for her to speak, Huli's voice rang out. "No need, I alone am enough." A cold smile hung on the corners of his lips as he stared coldly at the members of the Hu family. Luohua City has been quite lively recently. I wonder what happened in front. Suddenly, an aged voice sounded out from behind the crowd, and it was filled with curiosity. "I'm not sure. We should hurry and find Huli, Feng and the others in case that madman finds Feng The one who said this was a woman. Her voice was very flirtatious and stood out in the crowd. "All right, I'll ask where Huli's home is now." Ling Hai chuckled. He casually grabbed a person and asked, "Is there a person called Huli in your Luohua city?" "Where is he?" "Huli." That person was stunned for a moment and pointed to the front. "He's fighting with someone, what?" Ling Hai's expression changed greatly and he stood up in rage. Huli is fighting with someone. In other words, someone has provoked Feng again. Who is so reckless? Who dares to provoke even my disciple? Chapter 13:12. As soon as he finished speaking, Ling Hai dashed forward with a whoosh. Shuang shook her head helplessly and quickly chased after him. On the battlefield, Huli was fearless in the face of the elders' attacks. His handsome face remained expressionless. At this moment, an angry voice came from the sky and separated the two sides of the battle. "Stop!" This voice was like a devil's voice piercing through everyone's ears, striking their hearts like a hammer, causing their bodies to tremble. Hu Youwu looked up in surprise and saw 2 people walking out of thin air. One of them was an old man whose face was livid with anger. The other was an elderly woman. Because she had taken good care of her body, there were no traces of wrinkles on her face. Instead, she looked very charming. You are. Hu Youwu was stunned. He frowned and thought for a while. "I remember you. You seem to be an elder of the West Continent Academy." An elder of the West Continent Academy? Everyone was stunned. Why would an elder of the West Continent Academy appear here? Hu Youwu was lucky to be able to meet Ling Hai. When he was young, he followed his father around the world and coincidentally met the popular Ling Hai. He remembered him even more. However, Ling Hai did not recognize Hu Youwu. He walked down from the sky and quickly walked in front of Yun Luofeng with a nervous expression. "Disciple, are you all right?" "Disciple?" Like a bolt from the blue, Hu Youwu was stunned. This girl was Elder Ling Hai's disciple? Impossible. Why would Elder Ling Hai's disciple be together with Huli? "I'm fine," Yun Luofeng shrugged. "Huli is the one who's in trouble, not me." Hearing this, Ling Hai turned to look at Huli and said coldly, "Huli, what happened?" Hu Li looked at Hu Youwu and explained, he joined forces with someone to frame my father. I'm now settling the score with him. Nonsense. Hu Youwu glared at Hu Li. The one who framed your father was Ouyang Qinran, not me. Elder Ling Hai, don't listen to his nonsense. As his uncle, how could I harm his father? Ling Hai coldly snorted, do you think I will believe the disciples of my academy or you? After he finished speaking, he once again turned to Hu Li and said resentfully, Hu Li, in any case, you're a disciple of our academy's heavenly role. Why is it so difficult to deal with these people? What if they accidentally hurt my precious disciple? At this moment, Ling Hai seemed to have forgotten that Yun Luofeng was stronger than Hu Li. How could these people hurt her? But now, no one was thinking about this sentence anymore. They were all stunned by Ling Hai's words, heavenly ranking disciple? Was Hu Li really a disciple of the Academy's heavenly list? Hu Youwu's body trembled and he staggered a few steps. In the end, he couldn't bear it and fell to the ground with a bang. His face was pale and filled with fear. He was probably regretting his actions to the point that his intestines had turned green. Hu Youwu had never thought that Hu Li would really be a disciple of the heaven role. No, I still have young Master Bai Su. Hu Youwu's eyes turned from despair to hope. How could he forget about young Master Bai Su? With young Master Bai Su's strength, he would definitely be able to defeat the person in front of him. At this moment, Hu Youwu had never thought that if Bai Su really had the confidence to defeat Yun Luofeng and the others, then, why would he hide himself and let him be the one to stand out? Chapter 13:13. Yun Xiao. Yun Luofeng raised his head and saw Yun Xiao slowly walking towards him. His eyes held a smile as he asked, how is it? Yun Xiao's heart throbbed violently when he saw the girl's smile. He instinctively wanted to raise his hand to cover his heart, but when he remembered that Yun Luofeng was right in front of him, he could only lower his hand. I didn't manage to kill Bai Su, and he escaped. Bai Su escaped. The speaker did not mean it, but the listener did. Hu Youwu's expression changed instantly when he heard this. Sir, Bai Su escaped. Does this mean that I've been abandoned by him? No. Hu Youwu howled at the sky. Tears of despair finally flowed from his eyes and his face was ashen. Yun Xiao, let's talk inside. Let Hu Li handle this himself. Yun Luofeng held Yun Xiao's hand and turned to enter the room. Yun Xiao's heart throbbed again, but he did not pull his hand out of Yun Luofeng's. He allowed him to pull him into the room. Feng Yun Xiao looked at Yun Luofeng seriously. I might need to leave for a while. Yun Luofeng was stunned. He turned to look at Yun Xiao. You're leaving. Bai Su's power is not as good as mine, but I can't kill him either. Just as Bai Su had once said, Yun Xiao could not kill him. Why? Yun Luofeng asked with a frown. Bai Su's body is very special. Not only does he have a long lifespan, his defense is also very strong. Of course, if it wasn't for the blood curse, Bai Su might have already died in his hands, so I plan to go out and increase my power. Yun Luofeng grabbed Yun Zhao's arm tightly and said seriously, I'll go with you. No need, the place I'm going is too dangerous. I'm not afraid of any dangerous place. The girl's voice seemed to have a magical power that made Yun Zhao's heart feel like it was being torn apart again. It also made a drop of cold sweat appear on his handsome face. Yun Xiao, are you hurt? Yun Luofeng looked a little nervous as he hurriedly checked Yun Zhao's body. Yun Xiao lowered his gaze to stare at the young girl whose face was filled with worry. The corners of his lips curled into a slight angle. Don't worry, I'm fine. Feng believe me, I'll be back very soon. Hearing this, Yun Luofeng's hand gradually slid down from Yun Zhao's arm. After a long time, a devilish smile appeared on her lips, and her black eyes were filled with determination. Okay, I will wait for you to come back. Yun Xiao smiled. He picked up Yun Luofeng's hand and pressed it tightly against his own chest. In the future, when I'm not by your side, I'll be able to feel it when you miss me. What he said was the truth. As long as Yun Luofeng missed him, his heart would be torn apart. Yun Luofeng tiptoed and kissed Yun Zhao's lips. As the two of them kissed, she clearly felt the man's body suddenly tremble. Yun Zhao. Yun Luofeng left the man's lips and stared in astonishment at the handsome and cold features. You. What's wrong? Why did he feel that something was wrong with Yun Zhao? I'm fine. Yun Zhao shook her head and forcibly suppressed the pain in her heart. She then said, Feng, you must wait for my return. As Yun Luofeng was in a daze, the man had already walked out of the room and gradually disappeared from her line of sight, outside the city gates. In the dense forest, the man's body leaned against a tree trunk. His hand was clutching his heart tightly. This heart-wrenching, lung-splitting pain would cause one's dashing brows to furrow deeply. Chapter 13-14. When he had been by Yun Luofeng's side, he had not dared to show it, no matter how much pain he was in. This was because the girl was too cautious. If he had shown even the slightest bit of pain, she would have noticed it. Master. At that moment, the man in green descended from the sky and cupped his fists respectfully. Lin Qiong has gone back to receive her punishment. Do you have any other orders, Master? Yun Zhao straightened his body. His hand was still clutching his heart tightly as a cold light flashed across his eyes. Middle ground. Middle ground. The man in green was stunned. Master wanted to go to middle ground. That place where powerful cultivators gathered. The heart of Bodhi only exists in middle ground. The heart of Bodhi. The green-clothed man asked cautiously, Master, may I be so bold as to ask, this Bodhi heart, the heart of Bodhi can keep me alive for 3 days. The man's voice was cold and deep, but the young man was stunned. Alive for 3 days. What did that mean? Since he placed the blood curse in my heart, I will dig out his blood essence even if I have to cut open my heart. The man's voice was extremely domineering and echoed in the forest for a long time. The young man was completely dumbfounded. Did the master mean that once he found the heart of Bodhi, he would not die for 3 days no matter what kind of injuries he suffered? He would not die even if he cut open his own heart. But that was his heart. The master had gone to such an extent just to not betray the mistress. The young man could not help but sympathize with Lin Qiong. The master loved the mistress so deeply, but he had suggested that the master find a woman to break the blood curse. Wasn't this equivalent to angering the master and throwing him out to be punished? If Qin Yuan was here, he would definitely not say anything that went against the master's wishes. On the other hand, Lin Qiong was more foolish. Yun Zhao clenched his chest tightly and looked up at the blue sky behind him. Feng, wait for me. Once I break the blood curse, I will come back to see you. Hu Li walked into the room and found that only Yun Luofeng was staring out the window in a daze. He coughed and said, I have settled the matter with the Hu family, so we can set off now. Yun Luofeng withdrew his gaze and nodded slightly. We will leave tomorrow. Take advantage of tonight to say goodbye to your father and brother. All right, that's right, Yun Luofeng, your husband, he. Hu Li was just about to ask about Yun Zhao when he was interrupted by Yun Luofeng's voice. He has something to do and needs to leave. We don't have to wait for him. Yun Luofeng gently lowered her eyes. Her heart was faintly filled with unease. She kept feeling that Yun Zhao seemed to be hiding something from her. Master. Just as Yun Luofeng was thinking about Yun Zhao, little Mo's voice slowly came from within her soul. No matter what Yun Zhao does, it's all for you. Therefore, the only thing you can do is to trust him. Yes. The only thing she could do was to trust her. Little Mo, I don't want to wait for him here. I will work hard to improve my strength and find him. She would find him at the ends of the earth. At the same time, in a mountain range, Jinyu, supported by Sue's body, found a piece of stone, and stopped. She laid by Sue's body flat on the stone, her beautiful eyes filled with heartache and worry. "My lord, how are you?" Bai Su did not even have the strength to open his eyes. Blood continuously seeped out from the bloody hole in his back, dyeing the stone red. Chapter 13:15. If his lord had not refined his physique to make his body different from an ordinary person, perhaps Yun Zhao's final attack would have killed his lord immediately. Jinyu bit her lip tightly. However, even if his lord managed to save his life, he will still lose his life if he is not treated in time. What's more, he has just used 1,000 years of his life as the price to cast a blood curse. Bai Su's eyelids moved slightly and his hand hung limply on the ground. His face was already covered in blood and it was impossible to see his features clearly. However, in order to fight Yun Zhao, Bai Su had forcibly used his strength to restore his body size. Hence, Jinyu had struggled to carry him along the way and her forehead was covered in a layer of sparkling and translucent sweat. "My lord, I'm sorry. This subordinate is useless and that's why you've sustained such serious injuries." Jinyu's expression softened and her beautiful eyes gazed tenderly at Bai Su. Her fingers gently stroked Bai Su's cheek as her lips curled into a shallow smile. "Now, there's only one way to save you. Furthermore, it can also help you restore a certain amount of your strength. Even if you'll hate me for this, I must save you." She lowered her head and gently kissed Bai Su's blood-stained lips. She then raised her hand and removed all her clothes. "Back then, his lord had picked me up because of my special physique. As long as I was nurtured with medicinal herbs, my body could become a medium for his lord to restore his strength. Unfortunately, my physique is still not enough for his lord to restore all of his strength. However, now, I have no other choice. This is the only way to save his lord's life." Bai Su furrowed his brows and instinctively wanted to resist. However, he did not even have the strength to raise his hand and could only allow that small hand to slide down his body. In the depths of the forest, the stone house was overflowing with spring. Jinyu's movements were very rusty, and the pain made her beautiful face pale in an instant. Time ticked by and the man, who had his eyes tightly shut, suddenly opened them. His large hand fiercely hit Jinyu's body and Jinyu's body flew out with a loud bang before she landed pathetically on the ground. "Master, are you all right?" Jinyu propped herself up and looked at Bai Su in surprise. Bai Su coughed twice and spat out a mouthful of blood. He clenched his fists tightly, and the blue veins on his forehead bulged. "Jinyu, how dare you? Who made you do such a thing?" Perhaps it was because his injuries were too severe and he had yet to recover, but Bai Su's words seemed to lack strength. His devilishly handsome face was ashen. "Master," Jinyu bit her lips and stood up from the ground, "have you forgotten the ultimate purpose of bringing me back that year? Just now. I just wanted to help you." Bai Su sneered, "Help me? You're helping me. Get lost. Get out of my sight. I don't want to see you again." "Master." Jinyu was stunned. She knew that the master would definitely have an overreaction, but she didn't expect that he would drive her away directly. "Master, this subordinate, scram. Don't force me to kill you." A murderous intent flashed across Bai Su's eyes. His voice was filled with intense anger and he could not suppress it. "Master." Jinyu smiled. Her smile was beautiful and moving, and her beautiful eyes were surging with a firm light. "You once brought me back and used medicinal herbs to cultivate me. The purpose was to let me restore your strength. But now, you haven't let me take a medicinal bath for a long time." Chapter 13:16. Bai Su's gaze became colder and colder, filled with an eerie chill. Looking at the man's cold eyes, Jinyu could not help but shiver. She bit her pale lips and said nothing. Put on your clothes and let's go. Baisu was no longer angry with Jinyu. He slowly stood up from the stone and leaned against the tree behind him with his slightly staggered body. But his cold expression made Jinyu even more flustered. She knelt on the ground with a bang and said anxiously, "My lord, I know I was wrong. Please don't chase me away. Jinyu, don't force me to do anything to you." Baisu took a deep breath and gently closed his eyes. He clenched his fists so tightly that they made a cracking sound. He was obviously extremely angry. Jinyu slowly stood up from the ground and her lips curled into a self-deprecating smile. "My lord, you don't want to touch me, because of Yun Luofeng." Suddenly, Baisu opened his eyes. His sword-like eyes shot towards Jinyu and he said sternly, "What nonsense are you talking about?" "My lord, don't you know if I'm talking nonsense or not?" Jinyu's face was pale. "That's right. Yun Luofeng is not only beautiful, but also talented and excellent. How can you not be tempted by such a woman? Perhaps my lord wanted to use Yun Luofeng in the beginning, but later on, you got to know her more and became more obsessed with her. Am I right?" "Shut up." Baisu angrily stopped Jinyu's words. "I've always just wanted to use her. If you dare to make any more wild guesses, don't blame me for killing you right now." Jinyu smiled gently. Her smile was beautiful, but it was filled with sorrow. "Even if my lord wants my life, so what if I give it to my lord? My life was saved by you, my lord. All these years, I've followed you without any other request. I'll do my best to get the woman you want for you. If my lord hadn't been seriously injured this time, I wouldn't have violated you. So, I don't regret it." Whoosh! A fierce wind blew toward Jinyu. Baisu's palm tightly grasped her neck, and a dense light flashed in her evil eyes. Jinyu's body trembled. She closed her eyes tightly and her lips curled into a smile. To be able to die in the hands of the Lord, she had no regrets. Baisu's grip became more and more forceful. He only needed to exert a little more strength and the young girl in front of him would die here. But, in the end, he loosened his fingers. With a wave of his sleeves, a force hit Jinyu's body. In an instant, Jinyu's body flew out and fell to the ground in a sorry state. "I never want to see you again in this life." After that, his figure flashed and quickly disappeared in front of Jinyu. However, Baisu did not leave for long. He stopped 100 meters away and punched the ancient tree beside him. "I like Yun Luofeng. How is this possible?" Baisu sneered and his devilishly charming face curled into a mocking smile. "For 1,000 years, no one has been able to move my heart. Just Yun Luofeng alone doesn't have this ability. However, Yun Luofeng is much stronger than his mother, Bai Ling. He had wanted to use Yun Luofeng from the beginning. It was like this in the past and it will be like this in the future. Fall in love with her. It would never be possible." Baisu looked behind him at the thought of this. After seeing that Jinyu did not follow, he quickly disappeared into the forest again. Chapter 13-17. The sun was high up in the sky. A streak of fiery light flashed across the sky, dyeing the sky red like a flame. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Suddenly, several figures descended from the sky and stood in front of the woman in red. The woman in red raised her brow and swept her domineering gaze across the people blocking her way. She then cried out in a stern voice, "Get out of the way. My lady, we've finally found you. The continent lord has asked for you to return." A few people were unwilling to obey the woman in red's orders and continued to block her way as they replied respectfully, "Get out of the way." The woman in red berated them coldly. Her fiery red robes ignited her temper like gunpowder. "My lady. An elderly voice rang out from behind the crowd. An old man dressed in green robes slowly stepped forward with a kind smile on his face. "My lady, you've been away for a few years now. I wonder if you're willing to return to the East Continent with us." The woman in red's expression gradually sank as she stared coldly at the old man in front of her. "Even you're here. It seems that he's determined to force me to return. My lady, the continent lord is doing this for your own good." "Enough." Seeing that the old man was about to say something else, the woman in red cut him off. "I'll return to the East Continent, but I don't want anyone to restrict my freedom." The woman in red waved her sleeves. Her peerless features were cold and distant and her eyes were so cold that it made one's heart tremble. The old man shook his head in exasperation. In order to escape her marriage, the lady had fled from the East Continent to the West Continent and had even sneaked into the West Continent Academy. If it had not been for a coincidence, they would never have known that the lady would hide in a place like this. Indeed, based on the lady's talents, a place like the West Continent Academy would not be worthy of her attention. However, that was the only place that would be unexpected. "By the way, my lady, I've heard that you've been looking for someone recently. Is that right?" The old man's eyes darted back and forth as he asked. The woman in red swept her sharp gaze towards the old man. "This is my private matter, it's none of your business." If these people were to find out who she was looking for, they would certainly use every possible means to find Yun Luo Feng and force her to go to the Continent Lord's mansion. However, this was not what she wanted. West Continent. The border was desolate. It was like an ancient battlefield, with no signs of human habitation other than the smoke of gunpowder. "Yun Luo Feng, we'll reach the East Continent after passing this place. Are we really going there?" Huli was a little hesitant as he carefully looked at Yun Luo Feng. Yun Luo Feng raised his eyebrows. "What's the matter with the East Continent?" "This." Huli smiled bitterly as he shook his head. "Before the elders left, they told me that some time ago, someone from the East Continent came to look for the #1 genius on the Heaven leaderboard. Therefore, I guessed that she should be from the East Continent. Since we've come to the East Continent, we might bump into her." Yun Luo Feng narrowed his eyes. "The East Continent is so big. I might not meet her." Huli thought about it and agreed, so he did not stop Yun Luo Feng. Suddenly, he caught a glimpse of a small figure hidden in the sand in front of him. He was stunned for a moment before he involuntarily walked forward and used his fingers to dig away the sand, revealing a small figure. "Yun Luo Feng, there's a child here." "Children?" A hint of suspicion flashed across Yun Luo Feng's eyes as he looked in Huli's direction. He saw a young child lying in the sand. He was wearing a blood-stained robe that did not fit him. At this moment, the boy was frowning and his dirty little face showed a pained expression. Chapter 13:18. "Master, this child's body has the aura of the fruit of the soul." The fruit of the soul. Yun Luo Feng was stunned and looked at the boy with an even more solemn expression. This child's body doesn't have any spiritual energy fluctuations, so why is he here? And why does he have the aura of the fruit of the soul? As he spoke, Huli had already carried the boy out of the sand and quickly walked towards Yun Luo Feng. "This child seems to have suffered quite a serious injury. Yun Luo Feng, your medical skills are excellent, can you think of a way to save him?" Yun Luo Feng thought for a moment and gently nodded. "His injuries are not a problem, I'll just feed him a spiritual herb. Huli, we'll go to the inn later. Help him change his clothes first." She was determined to obtain the fruit of the soul. She would not let go of even the slightest bit of information. Fortunately, this place was not too far from the East Continent. Based on their speed, they could reach it in 2 hours. Although this place was at the border of the 2 continents, there were quite a number of inns. It was obvious that many people would often come to the border to hunt spiritual beasts. At this moment, Yun Luo Feng was sitting on a chair in the inn. She held a cup of tea in her hand and languidly sipped it. Suddenly, a hand pushed open the room door and Huli walked in with a half-grown boy. The boy had washed the dust off his face and had changed into a clean silver robe. He looked young and adorable. His pink, jade-carved face was still filled with nervousness as he timidly watched Yun Luofeng, who was sitting in the room. "I've already washed him clean." Huli stroked the boy's head and her lips curled into a smile. She then raised her head to look at Yun Luofeng. Yun Luofeng put down the teacup in her hand and lowered her eyes to stare at the person in front of her. "Your name?" The boy looked at her weakly and spoke in a voice as soft as an ant. "I don't remember." "Don't remember?" Yun Luofeng raised her brows and asked. The little boy nodded with a weak and pitiful expression on his face. "I don't remember anything." "Can you take me in?" "I promise I won't cause you any trouble." He bit his lip and his large eyes were filled with tears. He looked like he had been bullied. "Then who injured you?" Yun Luofeng continued to ask. The little boy seemed to recall some horrifying images. Fear surfaced in his eyes. He hugged his head tightly and squatted on the ground in pain. "It's a bandit. Those bandits wanted to capture me as a male pet. I didn't agree, so they injured me." The boy's skin was soft and tender, and he looked like he was carved from jade. It was indeed easy to attract the attention of some perverts. But, perhaps Yun Luofeng was overthinking things, but he felt that his appearance was not just a coincidence. "Go and rest first." Yun Luofeng lazily stretched his body and said evilly. "All right." The little boy nodded obediently. He looked at Yun Luofeng one last time, then turned and walked out the door. Bang! After he left, Yun Luofeng waved his hand and smashed the door. "Huli, watch her." Her voice sank and she said coldly, "However, no matter what he does, you must not stop him. I want to see what his goal is." As for why Yun Luofeng did not chase him away, that was because the aura of the fruit of souls on the boy's body was real and reliable. She wanted to find the fruit of souls through this boy. "You're saying that there's something wrong with this boy?" Huli looked at Yun Luofeng with some surprise. Chapter 13:19. Yun Luofeng shook her head. "I didn't say that there's anything wrong with him. This is just my guess. I hope that my guess is wrong. No matter what, Huli, you must keep a close eye on him." In this world, there were not many people she could trust. She would not simply trust a stranger whom she had never met. "I understand." Huli nodded seriously. "I'll keep an eye on him. I'll report to you if anything happens. You can leave too." Yun Luofeng held the back of his head with both hands and closed his eyes as if he was tired. Huli did not say anything else and left the room. After he left, Yun Luofeng opened her eyes. A light flashed across her eyes. "Little Mo, did you notice anything wrong with that child?" Little Mo shook his head. "I couldn't sense anything wrong." Little Mo's sensitivity was the strongest. If even he could not sense anything wrong, could it be that she had guessed wrongly? "I've already asked Huli to keep an eye on him. If there's anything wrong with him, Huli will sense it. If he's here with ulterior motives, I won't let him off." Yun Luofeng slowly rose from the chair and walked towards the large bed. "I hope that I can find the fruit of the soul soon and help Xiaobai recover. Next, I'll look for Yun Xiao." She had a feeling that Yun Xiao was hiding something from her. Therefore, she had to find that man no matter what. No matter how great the difficulty was, they must face it together. The night was like water. The silence was alluring. Yun Luofeng sensed that the door to her room had been pushed open. She raised her brows but did not make a sound. A hand grabbed onto her blanket, and then slowly reached into it. Yun Luofeng finally could not hold it in any longer and raised her hand to grab a small hand. Suddenly, she opened her eyes and her sharp gaze swept towards the little boy in front of the bed. She asked in a cold voice, "What are you doing?" The little boy was stunned. He looked at Yun Luofeng aggrievedly and tears almost fell from his eyes. I want to sleep with you." Yun Luofeng gently narrowed her eyes. "I'm sorry, only my man can sleep on my bed. Even if you're just a child, there's no room for you." The boy lowered his head. His expression was one of despair and sorrow, as if he had suffered a great injury. "You're very similar to my mother." I couldn't hold back just now, so a dangerous light flashed in Yun Luofeng's eyes. "Didn't you lose your memory?" The boy's head was still lowered, so no one could see the expression on that adorable young face. "I don't remember the past, but I have my mother's portrait." "I'm sorry, I didn't do it on purpose." Creak. At this moment, the door was opened again. Huli pretended not to know anything and stepped in from outside the room. He seemed to have not woken up yet and yawned lazily. "Why are you in Yun Luofeng's room? Let's go back to sleep." The boy allowed Huli to pull him out of the room. The instant he walked out of the room, he turned his head and looked at Yun Luofeng once more. His eyes were filled with longing and reluctance to part with him. If it was an ordinary person who met such a handsome boy, they would definitely not be able to control their motherly love. Unfortunately, Yun Luofeng was not an ordinary person. In front of this boy, her state of mind had never changed. Chapter 13:20. Not long after Huli left with the boy, he appeared in the room again. "Just now, I sensed this guy sneaking out, so I followed him. I didn't expect him to come directly to your room. I know your strength, so I didn't act rashly. I wanted to see what he wanted to do." Huli looked at Yun Luofeng seriously and explained why he had appeared so late. Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows. "That's right. Continue to monitor him." Huli hesitated for a moment. "Yun Luofeng, don't you have a hamster? Using that hamster to monitor him would probably be better than me." "Why did you?" "I don't know why, but I don't feel safe letting Milk Tea monitor him." After saying this, Yun Luofeng fell silent. No one knew what he was thinking. Huli's eyes narrowed. "Actually, I think he really misses his mother. That's why he came to find you. This boy doesn't seem to have any strength and looks harmless. He shouldn't be in any danger." Hearing this, Yun Luofeng smiled. She slowly stood up and said, "Huli, you can't judge a person by their appearance. Do you understand? The more harmless he is, the more sinister he might be. I, Yun Luofeng, have lived to this day because I don't trust anyone." Back when she was still in Huaxia, she had experienced a broken family. Her kind-looking uncle had adopted her, but after receiving the property left behind by her parents, his face immediately changed. As for her, she had been sent to an orphanage. Those children who appeared obedient and sensible in front of others liked to torture others behind their backs. Because of this, she didn't trust anyone. Even if the other party was just a harmless child. Huli was silent for a moment, then nodded. "I understand. I will continue to watch him and won't let him do anything threatening. Go and rest. We still have to hurry on our journey tomorrow." Yun Luofeng waved his hand and lay down on the bed again. Huli's heart had already become clear. He also understood why Yun Luofeng was so cautious. He glanced at Yun Luofeng gratefully and walked out of the room. On this mainland, one had to be vigilant at all times. Otherwise, one could lose their life at any time. The next day. Dawn. Huli and the little boy had been waiting at Yun Luofeng's door for a long time. When he saw the door open, the little boy's black eyes flashed with joy. However, when he thought of Yun Luofeng's attitude towards him last night, his expression became incomparably timid. Yun Luofeng's gaze moved from Hu Li's body to the boy. He carefully examined the boy's harmless face. You said yesterday that you lost your memory and probably forgot your own name. How about this, from now on, your name is Nothing. Nothing. Confusion flashed through the boy's eyes, as if he did not understand the meaning of this name. Yun Luofeng clearly didn't want to explain any further, but her lips curled into an evil smile. Hu Li, he looks like he's carved from jade. When the day comes that we don't have enough money to spend, we'll sell him to a brothel. Little Mo, who was coaxing the small tree in his soul, suddenly heard Yun Luofeng's words and his face darkened. Master, you have a special liking for brothels. The first time she saw Yun Xiao, she also wanted to sell her to a brothel. Yun Luofeng, Hu Li's mouth twitched. This doesn't seem to be a good idea, right?